Okay, good evening. Buenas tardes. We will now reconvene the regular meeting. And Superintendent, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to kick us off?
If you'd please stand. Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to recognize that our district and school campuses are located in the village of Pasbenga. I want to acknowledge that this land we refer to as Orange County is the unceded and traditional lands of the Gabrielino Tongva Nation and the Juaneño Band of Mission Indians, a Hachiman nation. These lands were taken through a process of colonization, physical and cultural genocide. I want to pay my respect to elders, both past and present, as well as the Tongva and Ahachiman youth who have attended and are currently attending our schools and in neighboring districts. At this time, we will move to our report of action taken in closed session. Ms. Quiros, do we have any action items to report out?
We do. In closed session by a vote of 5-0, the board took action to appoint Magali Ponce Gomez to the position of Assistant Principal, Santa Ana High School. Moved by Ms. Brazier Aceves, seconded by Ms. Magdaleno. Board members with a yes vote, Ms. Brazier Aceves, Mr. Bustos, Dr. Alvarez, Ms. Lepsak, and Ms. Magdaleno. In closed session by a vote of 5-0, the board took action to appoint Melanie Garcia to the position of Assistant Principal, Sagerstrom High School. Moved by Ms. Brazier Aceves, seconded by Ms. Magdaleno. Board members with a yes vote, Ms. Brazier Aceves, Mr. Bustos, Dr. Alvarez, Ms. Lepsak, and Ms. Magdaleno. In closed session by a vote of 5-0, the board took action to appoint Jody Curtis to the position of Coordinator of Special Education. Moved by Ms. Brazier Aceves, seconded by Ms. Magdaleno. Board members with a yes vote, Ms. Brazier Aceves, Mr. Bustos, Dr. Alvarez, Ms. Lepsak, and Ms. Magdaleno. In closed session by a vote of 5-0, the board took action to approve the resignation agreement and general release pertaining to permanent classified management employee as named in closed session, employee ID number 33662. Moved by Ms. Magdaleno, seconded by Mr. Bustos. Board members with a yes vote, Ms. Brazier Aceves, Mr. Bustos, Dr. Alvarez, Ms. Lepsak, and Ms. Magdaleno. That concludes action taken in closed session. For interpretation services into Spanish, please see Mr. Vargas, who is sitting right behind me. Para servicio de interpretación en español, por favor pase con el señor Vargas, quien se encuentra sentado detrás de mí. Live caption is available in front of the room to your left. Child care services are being provided in room 126. Se ofrece servicio de cuidado de niños en el salón 126. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, Ms. Quiros. And next we have Dr. Perez with the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Board President Brazier Aceves. I just want to welcome everyone back to the 26-27 school year. I've been able to be out at multiple school sites over the past couple of days, and just want to thank our families, and our students, our staff. So much preparation has gone into making sure that our schools are prepared and welcoming for our students, and it's just been amazing to see and feel that energy. And so I just want to give a very hearty thank you and gratitude to our certificated and classified staff, our administrators, and I just can't even express how much I've enjoyed seeing our students and their families. I know some of our board members have been alongside me for some of those visits, and each of them out visiting, separately as well as our cabinet team. So just overjoyed by the support and the just activity out there. Everyone out at the school sites really making sure that things are off to a good start. And so I put things in perspective. I know we're not perfect. We're going to continue to be, get better and be better. But opening up, 50-something schools is not an easy feat. And there were so many people who put time and energy behind that. So just a huge gratitude. And I hope that our students have an amazing school year. With that, I do want to stick with my theme that I have been talking about for the first year of my superintendency, and will continue to kind of just keep on this same, theme of things, recognizing our schools for the things that they're doing with regards to college and career readiness. And so you can see here that Segerstrom was recognized number 3 in the state of California, really for the race to submit and submitting the highest FAFSA and California DREAM Act application completion rate. So I want to give a huge shout out to Segerstrom, to our counseling team, to our certificated teachers, folks who all took part, and our classified staff I know who also are encouraging students and processing paperwork and doing all of the things that we needed to do to actually have that accomplishment. This is not the first time for Segerstrom. They've been on a track record for this, so I just want to give a huge shout out to them and to the team there. This is a piece of what we do and how we prepare students to be college and career ready. I'm really taking advantage of the application and the dollars that are out there for them to continue their education. And I do just want to highlight a few pieces around financial aid and our district. Noting that 61% of our seniors for 25-26 school year received a Cal Grant award. So that is a big deal. This means there are dollars there for our students to continue their education. And I'm starting the year by saying this because I want parents and our families and our students to know that dollars are out there. It's not too early to start. You think that things like this we're not preparing until, later in the school year. I want to encourage people to start getting your documents together now, things that you need for your student to apply for financial aid and apply for college, start getting those things together now. And so that is my message. I'm excited about the increases that we saw over this past year. We had an increase pretty much in every area, from completed financial aid applications being up by 1%. I know that doesn't sound like much, but 1% means quite a few kids. We went from 76 to 77%, and then 78% of seniors submitted the FAFSA or California DREAM Act, up from 77 the previous year. So I just want to keep uplifting and acknowledging the things that our system is doing well. So thank you for the opportunity to do that. And then lastly, but not least, I do want to introduce Jody Curtis, who is being welcomed to the SAUSD team and family as our coordinator of special education. So if you will please stand. So she is most recently coming to us from Palm Springs Unified, where she was serving as an assistant director of special education, and has served as a director of special ed since 2023. And so we are excited to welcome you and the wealth of knowledge that you bring to help support and serve our families and our students. So thank you. And with that, I turn it back over to our board president.
Thank you, Dr. Perez, and welcome, Ms. Curtis, to the district. We're very excited and fortunate to have you with us, and congratulations to the other appointments this evening as well. We're now going to move to our public presentations. Before we proceed, please note the following. The board president will enforce Board Policy 1313, which imposes rules of decorum and civility in the conduct of this meeting in this facility. Should any member of the audience act in a manner inconsistent with the requirements imposed by that policy, or who interrupts a speaker at the podium, makes comments that are deemed derogatory of the speaker and his or her message, or which are threatening in nature, she shall be warned to stop such conduct and asked to leave the meeting if it occurs again, or will be removed by law enforcement pursuant to Board Bylaw 9323. Any speaker who has been subjected to such treatment may contact the office of the superintendent at 714-558-5512, and speakers will have up to 3 minutes based on the number of speakers this evening. And with that, Ms. Quiros, you may begin. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have 4 public speakers. We'll begin with the first 2. May I please have Jessica Hernandez, followed by Bethany Rhodes.
Okay. Hola, mi nombre es Jessica Hernández y soy mamá de 3 niños que han participado en el programa Early Start. Cuando empecé con mi hija, mi hijo tenía 3 o 4 meses de nacido. Apenas estaba sanando mi cesárea y todavía estaba amamantando. En este programa nos aceptaron así como estábamos, porque tenían el personal para ayudar. Con 2 maestras de educación especial y 3 asistentes me pudieron ayudar, aunque tenía a mi hija y mi recién nacido y aunque estaba amamantando. Me ayudaron y me apoyaron para que yo pudiera poner manos a la obra y practicar las técnicas de enseñanza. Me apoyaron para poder preparar a mis hijos para que pudieran ingresar a la escuela sin que yo estuviera con ellos a su lado. Gracias. Les quiero dar a claro que los cambios del personal no nos gustan. Nos quitaron una maestra de educación especial y un asistente. Cuando tenemos circle time es muy difícil. Antes, con 2 maestras, una detenía el libro y leía en inglés, la otra leía en español y en lengua de señas. Un asistente ayudaba a repartir las cosas y tomaba apuntes de los estudiantes. Ahora, todo se hace a carreras y es muy difícil. La asistente está tomando el lugar de una maestra. Si una mamá ocupa ayuda, todo tiene que parar porque no hay el personal para que alguien más la pueda ayudar mientras las otras están leyendo el libro. Nuestras clases de padres estamos tensos porque tenemos que estar al pendiente del teléfono, porque quizás tenemos que terminar temprano, porque no hay el personal para cuidar a los niños en la otra clase, en el otro salón. Ayer fue la señora Jamie y Miss Anderson. Caminaron por las clases y estaban a punto de irse después de 5 minutos. No hubieran dicho nada si nosotras, las mamás, tías o abuelas, no lo hubieran hablado. No nos hicieron ninguna pregunta. En corto, todavía estamos aquí, todavía estamos en contra de los cambios, todavía estamos esperando la junta. Tenemos clase de padres a las 11 y si quieren podemos tener una junta en breve ahí. Todavía no tenemos nada en escrito acerca de estos cambios, que pues es parte de las regulaciones, que los cambios de Early Start deben de estar en escrito. Siento que estos cambios ya se están haciendo con la mentalidad de se hacen y por mis huevos. Cuando ya está esa mentalidad en una persona, pone a riesgo toda la institución porque pues ya paran de importar las regulaciones. Y se me hace muy triste que la persona que está haciendo estos cambios, que está dirigiendo, pues no está aquí escuchando los comentarios. Perdón. Aquí tiene una, acá.
Hello, my name is Jessica Hernandez, and I'm a mother of 3 children who have participated in the program. When I started with my daughter, my son was 3 or 4 months of age. My C-section was just healing, and I was still breastfeeding. And this program accepted us as we were because they had the staff to help with the 2 special education teachers and 3 assistants. They could help me even though I had my daughter, a newborn, and I was breastfeeding and healing. And they helped me, and they helped me to get to work and practice the teaching techniques. And this support so I can prepare my children to go back to school. And without me having to be with them. Thank you for this. And I want to tell you and to be clear that the staff changes, we do not like those. You took away a special education teacher and an assistant, and when we had circle time, it is very difficult. Before we used to have 2 teachers, and one held the book and was reading in English, and the other one was reading in Spanish and in sign language. The assistant used to help to distribute things and taking notes and noting the students. And now everything is done in a hurry, and it is very difficult. The assistant is taking the place of a teacher, and if a mother needs help, because we don't have enough staff, then the help is not available. We have to have our parent classes. We have to be aware of the phone because perhaps we have to finish early because there's not enough staff to take care of the children. Yesterday, Miss Jamie was there, Miss Anderson was there. They were walking around the class, and they were about to go after 5 minutes, and they didn't say anything, and the moms there, the aunts and the grandmas, they would not have said anything if we didn't speak to them. They did not ask us any questions. In short, we are still here. We are still against these changes. We are still waiting for the meeting. We have parent classes at 11, and if you want, we can have a brief meeting right after that, right there. And we have nothing in writing regarding the changes and regarding the regulations for early start. Everything, all the changes need to be in writing. And these are the changes that we need to make, and you're just making things just the way you want them. And I think that these changes are doing this with the mentality of I do it my way and whenever I want to. And this mentality for this person is is risking the instruction so that they do not follow the regulations. So it's sad because the person that is making these changes is not here tonight to listen to our comments and concerns.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for hearing us this evening. We're here again, the parents of the Early Start program. I'm sure that our faces are becoming familiar by now. We are parents of young children. This is dinner time and nearing bedtime. We don't want to be continuing to bother you if we didn't feel that things that we used to have and need to have were not being taken from our children. So we will continue advocating because that's what parents do, as you all, and many of you all know, and also because that's especially what parents with kids who have special things do. I'd like to again extend an invitation. We would love for any of you to visit our program. It truly is an exceptional program. It's a little bit patchwork right now because we don't have one of the primary teachers and assistants, as you heard, but it's still, I think, our fear also is that there will continue to be cuts, and it would be a shame if you all had never even seen the exceptional program that Santa Ana has for Early Start children. My child is one of those low incidence students, meaning that I think his access to the program is more protected maybe than some other status students. I wanted to speak a little bit about the importance of having typical peers present. I think the special education model has been shifting away from we lock these kids over here and we keep the normal kids over here. And of course, it's even more important at this age when they learn so much by watching and observing what other kids are doing. So even though it adds to the caseload, it benefits our students so much. He wasn't understanding, so he has glaucoma, and so we were worried about blindness, and that's why he loves his sunglasses. But anyways, he wasn't understanding. There's an important and fun part where we all have pictures of ourselves and the mothers or the grandmothers who come, and they practice taking their picture and putting it on the other side. And only after, he had been coming for weeks, maybe months, I'm not sure, and only after watching one of his typical peers kind of do that action did he understand more fully what he was supposed to be doing. But anyways, there's a lot of things I could say, and I have a squirmy child, but thank you all, and please do consider just how this program impacts our kids. You know, the early intervention just helps so much with the outcomes. He's on track technically now, I think, due to this program. Thank you.
Next, we have Patty Perales Huerta, followed by Cesar Vargas.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Perez, cabinet members, and most importantly, our SAUSD community. My name is Dr. Patty Perales Huerta-Meza, and I can keep going with 10 other names. I'm the Executive Director of Padres Unidos, and I just wanted to take a moment as we begin this new school year to say thank you and to celebrate what can be imagined when schools, families, and community when schools, family, and community come together around our students. SAUSD's graduate profile reminds us that preparing students for the future goes well beyond academics. We want to raise young people who can communicate, collaborate, think critically, demonstrate strength, flexibility, resilience, and engage meaningfully with their communities. At Padres Unidos, we believe firmly that those competencies begin and are strengthened at home. When we build the capacity of our parents and caregivers, we strengthen the environment around every student. During the 25-26 school year, our partnership with SAUSD allowed Padres Unidos community workers to provide over 1,400 connections and services to our families across the district. Our outreach, support, and education platform, in partnership with our FACE team, we're able to get behind not just those connections, but to hear the families and their stories. When our families experience loss, immigration raids, ongoing fear, our teams walked alongside all of them to navigate those difficult moments, letting them know they're not alone. I personally had the privilege to provide some of those grief counseling moments, as well as a training for our SAUSD FACE team, who needed and has been carrying the heart and soul of our community. Through funding from First Five, we were also able to bring our prenatal Playing with Padres series to Davis Elementary, allowing us to support families even before their children enter a classroom. That is what partnership looks like. It is a community worker and FACE team member making a home visit. It's connecting a family to a needed resource. It's sitting beside a parent or student experiencing grief or a moment of joy. It is preparing an expectant mother or father for their baby's arrival. It's helping parents recognize the tremendous role they play in developing that same communication, resilience, collaboration, and sense of belonging that we ultimately want in every SAUSD graduate. As we begin this new school year, we are so grateful to continue standing alongside SAUSD, the educators, the community schools, and most importantly, our families. For more than 25 years, we have believed that successful families build successful communities. Thank you, Madam President, board members, Dr. Perez for your leadership, cabinet members for all the behind-the-scenes work you do, and the entire SAUSD team.
Good evening, board, superintendent, cabinet, and community. Imagine a young student sitting in the back of a classroom. The teacher writes instructions on the board, but the child cannot see the words well. The letters are blurry, the numbers seem to blend together. Instead of admitting the problem, he begins looking around the room. He talks to classmates, he's distracted, he's labeled off task, disrupted, or even a behavior problem. But what if the issue was never discipline? What if the child simply could not see? That is one of the reasons why the Lions Clubs around the world continue the mission of service through vision care. During the 1925 International Convention of Lions Clubs, renowned author and humanitarian Helen Keller, blind and deaf herself, challenged the Lions to become the Knights of the Blind in the crusade against darkness. The Lions accepted that challenge, and today, we proudly continue that mission in our own communities. Last Saturday, March 14th, with the collaboration of Tustin and Santa Ana USD, area Lions Clubs, volunteers, educators, and community partners, we held a free Lions vision screening at Columbus Tustin Middle School. The result, 332 patients were served. 245 received free recycled eyeglasses that very same day. 54 additional prescription eyeglasses were ordered completely free of charge and later distributed. 51 people received eyeglasses for the very first time in their lives. 86 children and youth received professional vision exams. These screenings do more than provide glasses. They help students read more confidently, parents drive more safely, workers perform their jobs better. They restore dignity, independence, opportunity, and hope. Our survey told us something very important. 44% of participants said that they attended because they heard about the event through school or district communications. So this success was possible because of our collaboration. So our deepest gratitude to the Santa Ana Unified Board of Education, the Communications Office, and our awesome FACE liaisons who helped spread the word and support this important effort. As Lions, our motto is simple: we serve. So we are ready to serve again. You see, we rotate sites every year between Tustin and Santa Ana USDs. So we invite the entire community to our next free Lions Vision screening on Saturday, March 13th, 2027 at Century High School. Because somewhere out there, another child may be struggling to see clearly, and together we can help bring that child and our community into clearer focus. Thank you.
This concludes public presentations.
I just wanted to come up again.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who came out to share with the board this evening. We appreciate you taking the time to engage. And with that, we will move to our presentation. And I just want to share, I know either at the last meeting or a few meetings ago, we shared out just an outline of the time frame. So I know staff have 20 to 25 minutes for the presentation, and then we have our rounds of questions by the board for the different sections of our agenda. So folks see us sticking to that. That's what that is. And with that, Superintendent, would you like to call up the team to begin the presentation? Thank you.
Sure. Team, Mr. Hacker, and maybe he's by himself today.
So Jennifer told me that I had to re-earn my budget badge by doing this by myself tonight. No. It's a very short presentation, so I'm just going to cover everything. But if there are questions I can answer, Jennifer is at the ready. So good evening, President Brazier-Seves, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Perez, and of course the entire Santa Ana community. We're here tonight with the 45-day budget report. Wrong clicker. So you guys are used to seeing this timeline. This is the budget cycle, and of course we see 2 years at one time. We see the 25-26 budget year at the top and the 26-27 budget year at the bottom. Where we are today is the 45-day revision, which you see to the far right of the bottom part. And what this is, if after this board approves the local budget, the Santa Ana Unified Budget, if the state, after that point in time, approves a state budget that has additional revenue, then we are statutorily required to make that information public, and that's what we're doing here. And if you recall back in June, we did present the budget at that point in time. As we were presenting revenue, I pointed out that we knew we were going to be getting a significant amount of additional revenue. I believe I made mention of the fact that it was going to exceed at least $10 million, and it did. And I also talked about the fact that certificated salaries we knew they were understated because back in June, we still hadn't completed all the hiring and all of the staffing analysis, so we knew that there would be additional hiring, so we did know that certificated salaries were understated. So in bringing back the 45-day, we're just going to, with all transparency, show what the additional revenue is and the additional expenditures. Here's the ed code, the applicable ed code, and you'll see in the middle it just says that the school district shall make available for public review any revisions in revenue and expenditures. As is this district's practice, we go beyond just making that available. There are school districts that literally just put something on their website. The habit of this district, the practice of this district is to have a board presentation so that we're very transparent about any additional revenue and expenditures that we're recognizing. And here's the actual increase in revenue. So there are three resources that increased since adopted budget. The first is the Student Support and Professional Development Discretionary Block Grant. That increased by almost $19 million between the time that we adopted the budget back in June and now. Right below that, the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, and both of these are continuations of existing block grants. That increased by about $7.1 million. And special education, and I've been a CBO for over 12 years. This is the biggest increase in special education that I've ever seen. I was talking to Kevin Gordon last week, and he's been doing this longer than me, and he says it's the biggest that he's seen. But we got this very significant increase of about $12.2 million in special education funding, and that is very welcomed. Right below the general fund figures, you do have the same figures for our Fund 9, which is our dependent charter Advanced Learning Academy. Same pattern, but just smaller numbers due to the size of the charter. I mentioned I mentioned the special education funding. I do want to go into this a little bit more detail. Back in second interim, we presented this slide, and this shows the district's unrestricted general fund contribution to special education. And you could see historically, going back over the last 10 years, that contribution has increased, especially in the last few years. You saw 23-24, we were at 116.5 million. 24-25, which is the last year for which we have finalized figures, was $148.6 million. And of course, we have not finalized the numbers for 25-26, but you can imagine it is higher. It's going to be higher than 148.6. So that contribution to special education continues. If you look at the new revenue that we received, and we're grateful for it, it's about $12.2 million. But if you apply that $12.2 million to the overall contribution of 148.6, that still shows that we have remaining contribution of $136.4 million. So although we are grateful, we have to recognize that it's a very small piece, a very small segment of the pie, only 8%. So we're grateful, but it doesn't even begin to really address significantly the fact that special education is underfunded by both the federal government and the state government. Turning to the increase in certificated salaries that I mentioned at the beginning, certificated salaries themselves up by about $9.9 million, and then the corresponding increases in statutory benefits and health and welfare is $2.4 million for a total increase of about $12.3 million. Looking at those two together and looking at how they impact the ending fund balance, what you see is, and this is most of this is one-time money. You see the orange line being the ending fund balance that we had at adopted budget, whereas the blue line is the ending fund balance as of the 45-day. So you see a big difference in the current year, the 26-27 year, of about $26 million. So we're up $26 million more than we were at adopted budget. But because it's one-time money and because the expenditures are continuing through the multi-year, next year that increase nets out to only 21 million, and the year after that down below 16 million. And looking at the overall deficit, still from 26-27 to 27-28, that's a deficit of $12.5 million. And then for that final year from 27-28 to 28-29, we're back to still having a significant structural deficit of $28.8 million. And looking at this a little bit differently, just comparing revenue and expenditures, and you've seen this chart before. The green line is revenue, the purple line is expenditures. During the pandemic, as we were receiving all of those federal and state grants, the pandemic relief funds, we see that revenue was far outpacing expenditures, maxed out in 22-23 to over $1 billion in revenue. Then, starting in 23-24, we started to see some deficit spending. That deficit maxed out in 24-25 before we put some of the deficit reduction measures in place. That happened in 25-26, where you see the deficit decrease significantly. Then in 26-27, current year, because of the additional revenue, even with the additional certificated salaries, we're still ahead on the year. So now you see revenue outpacing expenditures just for the current year. And then once again, as we go into 27, 28, 28, 29, we still have components of that structural deficit, and you see that expenditures are outpacing revenue. So it's, it's good news. We got additional revenue, but we still have to be mindful that all of the things that we've talked about in previous presentations, the special education contribution, increases in health and welfare, all increases in utilities, all of those are contributing to the structural deficit. And even though we're actively doing measures to mitigate them, and the committees are all participating in that effort, we still have a structural deficit. We have to recognize that. We have to continue the work. And with that, I will take your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hacker. So I'll go ahead and open up to our speakers list if folks want to jump on the list. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody on the list. Okay, Ms. Lebsack?
Okay, so our expenditures are outpacing our revenue, so we're about 21 million in deficit spending, would you say?
In what year?
Currently, this year. I just know, I remember from our talk.
The current year, we're 26 million better than we were. There's not a deficit in the current year due to all of the one-time revenue. This is the year where we have a surplus.
Okay, so we're looking at deficit spending starting,
Next year.
Next year.
Resuming next year.
okay, thank you for that clarification.
I'll go back to that slide.
I just remember when I read that statement from the Orange County Department of Ed, when we were looking at our budget and when we were voting on raises, that, when I read that statement saying that, they're saying that our expenditures are outpacing our revenue, and you said, well, we don't really need to worry about that because we have this extra income coming in. It just feels like that was still kind of short-sighted, because as of this coming year, we're going to be in deficit spending again. So it doesn't feel like it was completely, I don't know. I feel like I kind of made that decision not based on total information.
Okay.
Can we go to the next slide, please? And I just want to clarify. So we are in 26-27 school year.
Yes.
That green line represents our revenue, and it is currently higher than our expenditure. I do not want to minimize where we're going, but I want to make sure our community completely understands. Green line above the purple means that we are in
Surplus.
yes.
Yep.
So for this year, 26-27, we are in a surplus. I actually don't really like that word, but that's another story for another day. That is because of the one-time monies that we are receiving.
That's correct.
One time.
Correct.
Ms. Magdaleno?
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Perez, you said it earlier, but just for clarification for the community, right? The 38.3 million additional in revenue, that's one-time funds, is that correct?
Almost all of it is one-time funds. The special education funding is ongoing.
It's ongoing, and the special education, okay, I see it, 12 billion. And what are you recommending to the board that we use with those one-time funds?
Well, they're already accounted for in large part in the budget. We did hire additional literacy coaches that go beyond what that literacy grant provided. We are continuing a lot of supports, plural, that were in place prior to this year. So we're using the one-time funds to continue those needed supports for our students in terms of out of the classroom positions that are assisting with curriculum and the literacy and all of our initiatives for academic excellence.
I think when we were talking about our literacy coaches, we said that was a grant, right, through the state? So can you clarify that?
Sure. So some of the positions were grant funded, and I'll bring everyone's attention back to what this board called for. Specifically, there were board members, and I heard, I'm going to say, support for ensuring that every single one of our school sites, whether they were granted a literacy coach or not, that we, for that equity reason, all of our elementary level schools would have that literacy coach support. That is what we heard from the board, and that is the action that we took.
And for how long again? Was it 2 or 3 years?
So it'll depend. I don't want to get in trouble. Bianca's already looking at me. So it depends on the person, really. Like, so we get the dollars, I'm going to say a round number. Let's pretend it's $100,000. And however long that lasts for the person who's in that position. So it's going to vary. If we have someone who is more senior, that money doesn't go as far. If we have someone who's less senior. So all those factors come into play. So it's not like a 2-year, that grant is going to cover us for 2 years, no matter what the cost is for the person.
So can we just say it's about, depending on the person, 2 to 3 years, right? Right, okay. And I think closer to 2? Okay. And I think when we were having that discussion, I kind of, I vocalized, the importance of literacy, one of our priorities here at the district, and maybe expanding that to 5 years, right? If we did get funds, right? That's the ideal dream for our students. Can we use some of this?
The short answer is yes, and that first grant, the Student Support and Professional Development Discretionary Block Grant, that is available through 2032.
Okay.
Whereas the one below that is only available through 2028.
Okay, so essentially, if we play our cards right, it can be used to maybe extend the deadline of some of our school sites. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I have a question. So can you go to slide 6, the next slide? So we see on slide 6 that kind of a comment and with a question. So we see, and this is something our board, I know myself and some of my colleagues have, continued to raise for the community, is we see that our general fund contributions to special education continue to increase. And I always say when I share about this that, as we should spend the funds, right, for our students, for the services they need. But at the same time, we need that support from the state and the federal government. So grateful to see some increase in that, some attention, some traction gaining. But as we see this, and then if we can go to slide, the slide where it shows the salary increases, slide 8. So as we see, here we see a 12.3 million increase. And so when we look at benefits and salaries, and again, I always say we want to remain competitive. We want to continue investing in our employees. That's a value that I know I have. I think many of us up here do as well. But as the costs continue to grow in these various areas, what are some of the strategies that you and Superintendent and Mr. Hacker and Cabinet are recommending for us where we can alleviate some of these long-term costs that we know are going to continue, but at the same time simultaneously ensuring that we're providing whatever that is, whatever that solution is, it's a benefit to our employees and to our community and not something that's negative.
So we're looking at deficit reduction measures across the board. You've seen the committees present multiple times about some of those measures on contracted services. I've also pointed out that between 80 and 85% of the budget is tied up in salaries and benefits. So I do have to emphasize the importance of us staying right-sized. It's very important for us to have the appropriate level of staffing, given the fact that we have this ongoing decline in enrollment. So that's an important piece of that.
So as you mentioned, looking at staffing specifically, I think as you're developing any recommendations, I think what my ask would be is, as you're developing recommendations that for our superintendent, that we're making sure they're things that are going to be a benefit to our employees, that we're proactive and find win-win solutions. And so if we have consensus from the board and with our superintendent, if you can have the team develop some of those strategies and bring it back to us, if that's what you're suggesting, right? Like if you are looking at the cost in salaries and benefits, like
Yes.
what are those positive things we can do for our employees that might help the situation?
Of course. So the district, I mean, we're actively looking at everything, at every possible avenue, and part of that is doing feasibility studies on retirement incentives. We did a retirement incentive a couple of years back. That doesn't preclude us from continuing to do the studies. Now there's statute that says if we were to do something like that, it has to result in savings to the district. We can't just do an incentive that functions effectively as a bonus. So the district is actively investigating retirement incentives and is doing the feasibility studies with outside agencies and in consultation with OCDE to see if that's possible.
Thank you. And that only makes sense, right? That that's where that win-win is, where we can find those solutions that get us where we need to be, but also are a great benefit to employees,
Yes.
potentially. Okay, thank you. Mr. Bustos?
Thank you. Mr. Hacker, can you please go to slide 10? Okay. So I want our community at home to really sit with this slide and think about where we were just a couple of years ago and then where we're at today. And I want our community members at home, our educators, our parents, to know that these numbers truly are a reflection of the hard work of our community members, of our superintendent, and of this board. And we accomplished these numbers because of a fiscal stabilization plan that prioritized the needs of our students and gave our community, our employees, a seat at the table through our Community Budget Advisory Council. And so, years ago, this board owned the financial reality that the district found itself in. And instead of delaying action, this board took action to address our budget deficit. We took action. And so we have done the work to ensure that we don't find ourselves in a nearly $140 million budget deficit ever again. So that no board, long after any of us are sitting up here, have to make the difficult decisions that we had to make. And so my charge to you, Superintendent, and to your team, and my expectation as we move forward and seeing these numbers that we will be deficit spending in 27-28, is that we start now in the same ways that we have already started, that we keep going. And making sure that your team brings options forward to this board for consideration so that we're no longer deficit spending, right? So that and we already have done this, right? We've already taken initiatives in the past that have resulted in cost savings, like the SERP that you just mentioned, like the Willie Brown Act incentive that we've offered, right? So this board and this district has been taking this action. And so my charge to you all is to continue to do the work and present this board more solutions to address the financial reality that we find ourselves in. And for the current year, it looks great. And we need to keep that momentum going alongside our labor partners, alongside our parents, families, students, and make sure that we're doing this early, right? And that we're being proactive and that we're communicating effectively and making sure that we're doing things like right-sizing the district. But most of all, making, the emphasis here for me, and I'll end with this, is that, we work with the labor partners, that we are involving them in our conversations, and that we bring them in and encourage them to help us find solutions. Because at the end of the day, the financial decisions that this board makes do impact students. And so I'm proud of the work that we have done as a board these past couple of years in collaboration with the superintendent, but there's still a lot more work that needs to be done. And so I'm looking forward to working with all of you to address this, so that again, our dollars are going to our classrooms and to our students.
Thank you, Mr. Bustos. I don't see anybody else on the speakers list. Ms. Lebsack? Okay.
It's possible you've done this before, but I was wondering, since $148 million is coming from our general fund into special education, it would be helpful maybe in a B2B to see our special, like a pie graph or something, and special education, like what's the percentage of special ed that's going to non-public schools? What percentage is going to lawsuits and legal fees? Or lawyers, what percent is going to transportation, certificated staff, classified staff? It'd just be nice to, it's a big chunk of our budget, and it'd be nice to see how it's broken down and how some of those areas can be mitigated, which I'm sure that you've already been discussing, right? But especially, I think, when it does come to legal fees and lawsuits.
We could absolutely do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I don't see anybody else on the speakers list. But I do want to just kind of wrap us up in the discussion. I think I heard several of our board members make the request for the superintendent team to come back with some recommendations for the board.
Yes, we are happy to do that, and we will do that expeditiously, so we expect to have something not too far off.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hacker. And with that, we will now move on to new and revision of existing board policies for first reading. This is the time for us to discuss and provide consensus. We won't take a vote today on these, but there's time for robust discussion as needed. So with that, Ms. Quiros, I'll pass it to you.
Board policy number 1, board policy 5030, student wellness, revised for first reading.
Okay, open it up to the speakers list. Okay, Ms. Lebsack. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Oh, no, there's no motion needed. This is first reading, so Ms. Lebsack?
Yeah, so this policy 5030 states that districts' wellness programs shall be consistent with the expectations established in the state's curriculum frameworks. Are we informing our community about the content of these frameworks? Due to Mahmoud versus Taylor, I think we also need to inform parents and community members about some of the very controversial sections of the newly adopted health framework that was passed in 2019. The health framework defined gender and sexuality as ever expansive, ever evolving, and constantly changing. And when I requested the California Department of Education to include one line excluding pedophilia or minor attracted persons as a possible future sexual identity, they refused to do it. So therefore, the plus identities of gender and sexuality are open-ended, with no boundaries and no limitations, which is pretty dangerous and extreme. You may say, oh, but pedophilia is against the law. Yes, so is polygamy. But the 2019 Health Framework normalized non-monogamous relationships, even though it's illegal to be married to more than one person at a time in the United States. And if anybody's doubting what I'm saying, please email me and I'll send you the document with the exact page numbers. Therefore, I make a motion that a line is added to this policy which says, the teachings from the health framework must fall under the requirements of Mahmoud v. Taylor regarding notifying parents about controversial content and providing an opportunity to opt out of content that goes against parents' sincerely held religious beliefs. This is why some of my trust and respect for the California Department of Education has really diminished since 2019, and that is why I became a big advocate of school choice, even as a public school teacher. So I'm making a motion that we add those lines to the board policy. Do I hear a second? Going once, going twice, and it's gone.
Mr. Bustos?
Yeah, I just have a request for our superintendent. Because we're not voting on this item tonight, and I do want to respect, obviously our colleagues' ability to offer suggestions, additions, deletions to our board policy, but I would like for the team to be able to go back and speak with, legal counsel, better understand, have, deeper conversation with the board member that's making the recommendations to understand if that specific Supreme Court case would apply to a policy like this, just because I don't know whether or not it does. And so that would be helpful for me, just to receive that information. So if we can go back and do that, that'd be helpful.
Dr. Perez, were you trying to get on the speakers list?
Sure.
Or respond?
Yes, we are happy to do that. I will work with our team to, and legal counsel, obviously, around the applicability to this particular board policy. And we're happy to, I will reach out to you because I want to make sure that we're actually addressing the pieces that you are asking. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Perez, were you trying to gain consensus?
I was looking to see, I see head nods, but I feel like I have that, but I do want to clarify.
Do we have consensus from the board? And Dr. Alvarez, I see you're on the speakers list next. So, okay, Dr. Alvarez.
I have a couple of questions and a couple of requests in regards to this policy. This policy at the very bottom of page 1 says that the board may enter into joint use agreements or memorandums of understanding to make district facilities or grounds available for recreational or sports activities outside the school day and or use community facilities to expand students' access to opportunity to physical activity. There's a shortage of park space in the city of Santa Ana. Before, we were meeting on a monthly basis with the city of Santa Ana in the joint meetings. I think we stopped meeting a year ago or a year and a half ago or something like that. But one of the things that we had brought up at the time was the updating of our joint use agreements. I do believe that it's beneficial for our community to be able to use our facilities for recreational purposes. But one of the things that I don't think that we finalized was that we had, I think, 20 joint use agreements or something like that we were working on revising. We were told at the time that it would take at least a year for the city staff and our staff to get together to revise them and create master agreements for those. So I just wanted to ask if we can get an update to see if that was ever finalized. And I think when we were having those discussions, we were also talked about possibly looking at other sites for joint use agreements. So the request that I had was just if we can get an update regarding those. The other thing that I also had was in this policy, it talks specifically about a school wellness council. It states that the superintendent The superintendent may appoint a school wellness council or other district committee and a wellness council coordinator. And as I was reading this, I was thinking back on, I was looking at the results of the thought exchange from the last LCAP. And in that thought exchange, one of the things that kept popping up, or one of the things that stood out for me, is that students or parents or the results of people participating in the thought exchange kept bringing up mental health. They kept bringing up mental health. That was their concern. And I just started thinking, well, if we spent so much time and effort and money into improving our mental health resources for our schools and for our kids, why is it that they're still bringing it up? So I guess this goes back to, how can we get a true measure, or how can we get a true assessment of whether we should be doing something differently with our mental health to increase the efficiency? And I know thought exchange was one of the tools that we had used, but this is another avenue through a council to be able to further explore and take a deep dive into it. And my time's out, so I'll yield my time.
Thank you, Dr. Alvarez. I have some comments, and then if folks jump on the list, we can circle back around. But I wanted to really share that I'm really pleased to see our student wellness policy come forward with the revisions that add explicit language supporting students experiencing homelessness as defined by McKinney-Vento. This reflects several priorities we have been advancing as a district and more clearly codifies this commitment in board policy. I had asked the superintendent to bring forward language codifying our district supports for our McKinney-Vento students, and I'm glad to see that reflected here through connections to district and community resources that support student wellness and educational success. So thank you, superintendent and team, for identifying and helping us really codify this work. I know since I've joined the board, my colleagues, such as Dr. Alvarez, always shares a line, our kids can't learn if they're hungry. I believe that's what you say, Dr. Alvarez, and I do believe that that is a value and a sentiment that this board has really stood by. And it also, as I've been on the board, we've continued that work, and so it really builds on our partnerships, like our new food pantry that we just did a ceremony where we're just starting to get the facility ready, and so we celebrated that just last week at the Rob Richardson Welcoming Center. It's a partnership with Share Ourselves, which our board approved at our last meeting, as well as our continued expansion of other no-cost partnerships that provide mental health and wellness services, nutrition, physical activity, and other wellness supports. These efforts help remove barriers that can help students be able to focus in the classroom and fully engage in their learning, while also allowing us as a district to focus our resources on academic achievement, which is something that I believe our governance team, including Dr. Perez, we've been very vocal about. We just had a updated budget presentation, and so part of us getting creative and being resourceful with our funds is leaning on our no-cost partners. I don't see anyone else on the speakers list, so I'll finish mine and then go to the next person. So I did want to highlight, again, just thank you to the team for really codifying our support as a district. I know I've met with our support services team at length to inquire what are the supports we provide our students who identify or that are identified as under McKinney-Vento, and it's quite extensive, whether that's at the site, with our teams at the site, serving our families, or at the district offices and support services, and across so many departments that touch the needs of our students, right? So thank you for codifying that governance goal and value that we have. And I'll go ahead and go to the next speaker, Mr. Bustos.
Thank you. One of our board priorities here at Santa Ana Unified is wellness. And so this board policy is especially important to me because it really talks about the ways that we are, taking care of the whole child, right? And so over the past couple of years that I've sat on this board, I know that we've had conversations around, and we've kind of dipped into a little bit of the conversations around kind of like school climate, how students are feeling, connectedness. But I truly do believe that, as a board, we need to take a deeper dive into what our school climate is looking like at our elementary schools, at our middle schools and high schools, and really looking at the data when we talk about student connectedness. And we know that connectedness is then tied to academic performance. And I think in the moment that we're living in as a society right now, and the conflict and the trauma that our students could be experiencing every single day because of affordability and people not being able to be housed or afford groceries, or because of immigration enforcement that we're seeing in our communities, it's difficult for students to have to show up to school every single day ready to learn. And so as a school community, we play an important role in making sure that our students feel safe on our campuses and that we provide that stability for students. And I often talk about my experience and how school was always and always felt like the safest place for me. And so, but the reality is that a lot of students don't feel that way. And so I think we do, as a board and a district, we need to take a deeper dive and really look at that data and see what we are doing at the school site level to create conditions where our students feel safe, feel connected, and feel supported. Because we could talk about academic performance all day, but if our students don't feel like they have a safe place to go, we cannot expect them to do well in the classroom. And so that's my pitch for our board to consider in the future as we really dive into our board priorities and what our work looks like moving forward. And I know that it's something that I'm gonna, keep an eye on and continue to have conversations with Dr. Perez regularly about this, because we've had conversations about this in the past. And so I'm hoping that, our board really considers looking at this in the future and seeing what more we can do to focus on this. And then my last question here is something that I do want us to consider is around the competitive food and beverage and beverages. Yeah, that's a really repetitive line in this policy. But around when the school day is defined and then when the school day ends, and ability for parent organizations or clubs on campus to be able to fundraise or sell items. I think, again, 30 minutes after the end of the school day is a long time, and oftentimes, the people that you're trying to sell to are no longer there after 30 minutes after school. So I don't know if this is tied to, state law or EDICODE, or if this is just our own internal policy. Mr. Hacker, can you please speak to that?
It's tied to statute.
Okay. And then in terms of, I have to think more about this, just because, for me, the issue was, actually, I'll wait for my turn. I didn't realize my time was over. Yeah, I'll come back to this.
Okay. We'll circle back, and then Ms. Magdaleno, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah. I just want to say, I know you mentioned McKinney-Vento students. Just really quick comment. Can we also add, I was reading through this, and I know some other of our student groups are missing. So maybe if our staff can also include maybe our foster students, maybe our newcomer students, and any other student group that we might be missing for this policy, and bring that forward. But that's about it. I just had that small comment, but we can go back to Mr. Bustos.
And I think, so I heard that request, so Dr. Perez, does that this team can go back and find the appropriate places to add our other special student populations? Okay. Okay. I had some more comments, so I'll go ahead and share, and then we'll circle back to Mr. Bustos. So I also wanted to I did notice in this policy, it mentions a wellness council under the discretion of the superintendent, or formation, of the superintendent. And so with the renewal of this policy, I did reach out to the superintendent, and I understand we will be revisiting the operation of the wellness council. So I look forward to an update from the superintendent on that. And maybe that's Also, I'm seeing a connection now to Mr. Bustos' point too, maybe, with the school climate as well. Maybe that's an opportunity for us to dive deeper into the work Mr. Bustos was asking for. And then, so Superintendent, do you want to speak to that at all for our community?
Sure. Happy to do that. As we were bringing this policy forward, I too was looking at it and saying, oh yeah, we did have such a council before. And so as we go through that formation, happy to bring that back to the board and really share the direction that it's going around what the priorities. We don't want to just bring groups together for the sake of bringing groups together. We want to be intentional, and people feel their time is valued and stay engaged when they have purpose right behind what they're doing. So I do see obviously a variety of folks, but I would love to be able to hear from our students in a very large way from this particular council. So that is, as I started thinking more about reestablishing this and what that could look like, our students at the forefront. I will say that.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for always grounding our student voice. I know that's something that our governance team really works to do. So thank you. I appreciate your leadership. And also, this policy, to Dr. Alvarez's point earlier, it does recognize the opportunity for joint use agreements, which obviously we do have with the city at some of our school sites and facilities. But really, when I read this, I was looking at, the discussion of green spaces and recreational spaces, expanding access for our community to have, be able to have physical activity for our students in the community. And so I also reached out to the superintendent to ask about this because I, had that concern that the joint use committee with the board members and council members had been disbanded. So, but I know that the superintendent and city manager have been able to continue that work in their regular conversations, and superintendent is aware that, the board. I believe I've heard a consensus on the board, but we can double check, but that we do have that priority of making sure our community members and students have plenty of access to green space and just continuing to build that in a partnership with the city. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you're able to bring forward and the creativity there to benefit the broader community in Santa Ana and our students. I don't know if you want to share anything about that as well, Dr. Perez, before I move to the next board member.
Sure, happy to do that. So yes, I listen to the things that are important to you guys as you're speaking from the dais. I have captured that it is important for us to continue the conversation, albeit the committee was not, the formal committee was not moving forward. I took that as the charge to continue the conversations with the city manager, and we are in regular communication, but deliberately sitting down to talk about shared space and all of those things. We actually meet tomorrow. And so just thinking about the opportunities that we have, and obviously really taking direction from this board, not doing anything without you guys, understanding or saying, go forth and do that. So as we talk more concretely about things, we definitely will be bringing things back so that the board gives direction for, those things and the vision for the community as representatives of the community.
Thank you, Dr. Perez. And Ms. Magdaleno?
Yes. Just really quick, I just, want to thank my colleagues for bringing up the. What happened?
Sorry to interrupt. I think do you mind if we go back to Mr. Bustos? So it's the second round before we go to our third round?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to respect the vice president.
I just wanted to piggyback on the point that, President Brazier Aceves was making, and thank you, Superintendent, for continuing the discussions with the city manager and building that relationship, because I think now more than ever, there should be collaboration between the district and the city, because we serve the same constituents, we serve the same students and families, and so, yeah, I mean, it was disheartening. I know that both myself and Dr. Alvarez were sitting on that school joint committee, and I know that, unfortunately, the mayor and some members of the city council who didn't sit on the committee voted to disband that committee, effectively taking our opportunity to be able to meet and talk about solutions. And a lot of the conversations that we were having were around, the joint plan. We were having conversations about how we better serve our students and families. So I want to thank you for continuing that in those conversations and in the work that we do in the benefit of our students and community, because it's critical now more than ever. So I just wanted to echo those remarks. But the point that I was trying to make earlier around, and I guess I actually should have started with that question around whether or not, it was statute, what's in this policy around what is considered the workday, and then how many minutes after, the school day, how many minutes after the school day can organizations, whether that's a PTO or whether that's an organization, be able to, sell food on campus. And the reason that I was bringing that up is because oftentimes it's these student organizations, student clubs, PTOs that are the ones that are on our campuses after the school day raising these funds. And it's oftentimes those organizations that need money to be able to recruit students, to build that connectedness on campus, to be able to serve their members, to do whatever they need to do with those dollars, right? And so it's unfortunate to hear that that's just what is state law. But I do want us to think about what are other ways for us to be able to support those organizations that are doing that work at the school site to build school culture, to build connectedness for those students who are part of the Vietnamese Student Association, or who are part of the organizations for gamers, right? Or I know we even have faith-based organizations, right? So bringing that connectedness for those students. And so, I just want us to explore what we can do to support those organizations on campus so that they can then support the students on their respective campuses.
Thank you, Mr. Bustos. Ms. Magdalena?
Yeah, I just want to start off by thanking my board colleagues for bringing up the joint use agreements and for bringing up the discussion on green space, right? When I first got on the board, one of my big issues or topics that I was talking to the superintendent and a couple of our staff members was opening up Pio Pico, Lowell's green area, because it's one of the most densest neighborhoods in Santa Ana, central Santa Ana as well. And how can we create green spaces for our students, right? I even dragged Ron and Jeremy out there, and we did a walkthrough and everything. And, being a newbie on the board, I was like, how can we get this done? And unfortunately, the conversation died, right? We were going through a lot of things last year when I first got on the board, but I'm happy to see that now we have 1, 2, and now 3. So we can continue the conversation. And I want to request an audit, right, of, I know we have a list of joint use agreements, if I can get that. And if I can also get an audit made or done by our staff, if we can see what school sites across the city, potential sites of green spaces that we can open up, that we can work with the city of Santa Ana. I know they're willing to put in the work. I talk to them on a daily basis. And I was like, we're not going to be carrying this. We need to do this in a partnership. And it was so unfortunate when the joint use subcommittee was disbanded, because I did feel like you guys were heading somewhere, right? So it was really sad to see that when I got on the board, it was just disbanded, and the work that was put in there was no longer there. So it was just starting from scratch. So I think from this moment forward, right, if we can get an audit of the green spaces of our school sites that we can potentially open up, obviously in the dense areas, where we have a lot of families living, in a single family home, those type of areas would be where I want to highlight, and if we can get that as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Magdaleno. Ms. Lebsack?
Yeah, Mr. Bustos, I hear what you're saying about, wanting to partner with the city leadership, but I do want to also say that, there's our community members that have concerns about some of those things, because if we start blurring the lines too much, we mission drift as school board members. And we all know that Ms. Magdalena works for City Council Member Jesse Lopez. Jesse Lopez works for Orange County Supervisor Vince Sarmiento. It becomes a spaghetti bowl, and it starts mixing. And when, I know before I was even a board member, hearing things from the dais such as non-citizen voting, rent stabilization, those aren't things that we should really be focusing on as school board members. And I would like to see us as school board members really focus on what we're here for. We're here for academic outcomes, and this is our primary mission, and I think we're getting into so many other areas that we are forgetting our primary goal. So I just want to put it out there.
Mr. Bustos?
Yeah, and I want to thank you, Board Member Lepsak, for highlighting that. We should be focusing on academic outcomes. And so I hope tonight, when we go through these items, that is your focus, academic outcomes. And it's your focus as we continue the work on this board.
Thank you, Ms. Magdalena.
Yeah, and I work with Councilmember Lopez, right? So everybody knows that. I think it just makes our jobs easier, so we can learn how to collaborate, so we can have those partnerships, so we can learn from one another. And I think, that opening up green spaces isn't a difficult idea, right? It's in benefit of our students, it's in benefit of our families, and I'm gonna be up here supporting things that our families need, because our students need a green space. They need an area to run around after school hours in order to come back the next day and be ready to learn, right? And that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you. And I do thank you to my colleagues for sharing the perspective on that, because I do think it's really important for our community, for our students, our educators, and our larger community, our staff that are here to really, see our board advocating and spending the majority of our time around the academic performance of our students and the goals that we've all committed to with the leadership of Dr. Perez as well. And I do believe that has been what the majority of us have been doing. And earlier in my comments on this item, I even highlighted the fact, something that we have been highlighting repeatedly through the last several months, maybe a year, with this governance team, is that we are relying on our community partners. We rely on the City of Santa Ana and our partnership with the FACE team to bring in information on rent stabilization and tenant rights to our families, so that our students can focus on learning in the classroom. We do, as a board member, I do get calls from parents, from staff who are parents, from community members saying that, they've had students walk out of class or seemingly have behaviors, but really what it came down to is there's a fear of getting evicted. Parents can't go to work due to immigration concerns or other issues that lead to a student being afraid that they might have to be forcefully removed from their home. So we're not saying that our classroom teachers or staff who in teaching and learning are necessarily doing that work. We've been working hard to partner with the folks who are the experts in these subject matter areas who provide those services at no cost to our families. And so I think it's really commendable that our teams have, found a way to keep our resources in the classroom where they belong, but still provide these much needed resources and supports for our families and students. And so I do not want to see a reduction in supports for our students and our families. I think that would be completely negligent, and we know that has an impact. These concerns of our students and our families have an impact in the classroom. And so I just want to say I think we're doing a great job. I am proud of this team for that. And it's really our staff who make those connections and make it possible. So I think we just got to keep up that good work. And really it's all in the benefit of our students and their ability to succeed, and taking away as many barriers as possible. With that, I'll go ahead and pass it to Dr. Alvarez.
One last quick comment. I just wanted to mention that academics is our goal. That should be our focus. Let's take a deep dive into special education. Let's take a deep dive into chronic absenteeism. Let's take a deep dive into literacy and all of these things. But the thing is, in order for our students to succeed in those areas, we need to remember one thing. Our children can't learn if they're hungry. Our children can't learn if they're homeless, and our children can't learn if they're traumatized. And that's why it's important that we take those things into consideration as we're talking about academic achievement and moving forward.
Is that it? Okay, thank you, Dr. Alvarez. I also wanted to ask Superintendent, I wanted to offer you an opportunity to speak to this because I know that this is work that we have worked together closely with. I believe, there's, I've just heard 4 of us up here speaking to it, but I know that you've been a big part of ensuring that the resources are going to the classroom and that we still have these supports for our students. So if you could speak to that or whatever it is that you wanted to share.
Sure, thank you. And I do want to recap to make sure that we walk away with all the things that you guys wanted for us to reflect in this policy as we bring it back. But thank you for the opportunity to share around, the holisticness of the supports that we're looking to provide as a district. I think many who have spent any time with me know that I'm going to keep going back to the academic outcomes and the excellence for our students. It is with that in mind that I pursue anything else, whether it be the partnerships with other folks, or any of, the other things that, the joint use, our work around how can we, climate survey, all of those things I happily pursue so that we create the best conditions for our students and their academics. That is, where I will always stand, broadly stand, on those things. So, and it's not us. I'm going to just keep looking for the partners. They're out there. People want to help us. And I laugh about it because, it's every day in my everyday work that I'm connecting with somebody new and I'm like, oh, getting them all excited and vice versa about, how they can help and come alongside and support our families and our students. So I'm happy to do that because we do need to preserve our classrooms, the classroom teacher and all of the folks who support the classroom. We need to preserve their energies to do that very, very hard work and heavy lift of ensuring that our students are achieving, and learning and just thriving and growing and seeing their dreams realized. So thank you for the opportunity to share that. I heard, if I may, a couple of things. I want to make sure that our team has direction around this policy. So we are going to seek out legal counsel around how Mahmoud applies in this particular policy. We're also going to provide information and an update around joint use, not in the policy, but in conjunction with bringing back the revision. So update on our joint use and update around the reinstating of our council, of the group that will be working to wrap their energies around wellness. We are going to include our foster newcomer, and I heard us really looking at any other student groups that might need to be reflected and captured here. I also heard us looking at our school climate survey and really thinking about belonging and really unpacking that. And I was looking over at Emily while you guys were talking. I think we know where we need to go with this. And then just continuing to provide the updates and get direction from the board around the joint use as it applies to this particular policy.
Is there anything that was left out that folks know? Okay. I do have one question for the team as we're getting consensus around seeking legal consultation on the Mahmoud case and this policy. I'm just thinking, about resources and things like that. So I'm trying to remember now back to that part of the conversation. Is that something that folks still feel is something that we want to see? I think Mr. Bustos, you maybe had recommended that. Is that Was that a consensus? Is that what you were calling?
Yeah,
for?
I mean, I understand, yeah, I mean, I understand, the question. I guess but I mean, I did say legal, but I also said our own staff to be able to assess that from, and we don't even have to go back to legal, but just, go to legal, but we can just look at what legal has already given us, because we've asked a lot of questions to legal about this specific Supreme Court case. We've already used a lot of resources to ask legal questions about this specific Supreme Court case. And so we have a lot of resources already that legal has provided you and to the board. And so if we can just revisit that, I think that should be sufficient.
Okay. Okay, so that sounds good. Thank you, Superintendent. And I did have, I had one last piece really just to highlight for our community and our board. This policy has a lot in it. It also mentioned recognizing walking and biking to and from school as opportunities for physical activity. And so I believe there's opportunity for us to lean further into partnerships with local community-based organizations that already have expertise in bicycle and pedestrian safety, e-bike safety, and safe routes to school. Recently, I worked with Latino Health Access to connect them with our district around identifying funds. They had identified funds, and they wanted to bring us in as a partner with the California Air Resource Board. And so they just let me know that they did receive those funds, and so we'll be benefiting from that. So I want to thank the staff who made that happen. And I know it was a tight time frame, I think, for the deadline, so thank you. And I bring this up because I know they also are offering these programs for elementary students. They did share with me that they had, when we were on the phone, spots for 5 more elementary. So I want to put a plug out there if, this is free to our schools, and we already have an MOU for this work. So if folks are interested, they are looking to support 5 more schools across the county. I would love for that to be our schools and our students. We do have a really high rate here in our city of pedestrian accidents, right, and fatalities. And so we want to make sure our students are working with the experts to have all of those safety skills and supports. And then lastly with that is, I know our district is working on a policy around e-bikes. And as different municipalities are looking at that, I want to encourage our team to work with partners who are doing that work, such as Latino Health Access, such as SAS or Santa Ana Active Streets, so that we can make sure that we're supporting our students, making sure they have access, as this policy says, to being physically active, to getting to school safely, to being out in the fresh air and the public spaces, which are our sidewalks, too. But also making sure they're safe and not criminalized as well, and so that we can participate in those local conversations and make sure our policies support our students, right? So with that, I don't think there's anything that needs to be added to this policy at this moment, but maybe it may come back after we develop more of our thoughts around the e-bikes. So if there's no one else on the speaker list, we can move on to our regular agenda action items at this time. Ms. Quiros?
Action item 1, adoption of revised board policy 5131.4, student disturbances.
Okay. Can I get a motion and a second?
I'll motion.
Okay. I'll go ahead and second. Any discussion? Ms. Lovesack?
Yeah, I was just wondering if in the next B2B, it referenced a student disturbance management plan, and I was wondering if I could see a sample of one of those. I know in our last board meeting, we talked about attaching the administrative regulations to the agenda, but I know we're using a brand-new format today with Gamut, so we weren't probably able to do that yet, but it did talk about AR 3516, and it would be good to, so we don't have to take the extra time to look up these, ARs and stuff. It'd be nice to have that there. So do you think that's going to be included?
I did hear that from the board last time, and we
we're preparing to do that, and we are on this new system. So the
Right.
team, have replied to some emails with those asks as well. But yes, we will be, that is what we are putting into place.
Okay,
So that
great.
it becomes very easy for all of our board to navigate and make reference back to
Thank
the
you.
ARs.
So question of clarification, Dr. Perez, would we be voting on the ARs, or it would just be part of the conversation?
Great question. So some of the ARs that will be listed are not ARs that will be for consideration. It's for your reference. But I'll give an example. Let me take this board policy. Let's take 5131.4 and assume or pretend that it had an AR. That AR would actually not be part of the action. It would be part of consent. And for transparency, we had typically been sharing the ARs with our board in the B2B, which is the correspondence that we share with the board every Friday. To create more transparency, we, as a team, as a cabinet team, thought that we should be bringing these out into public so that our board is looking at them and that the community knows that they're being looked at under consent. Because it really dictates how we as administration implement the board policy that you all are putting into place.
Okay.
So you wouldn't be voting on every single AR that's attached. It would be there for reference.
Okay, thank you. And that's helpful. I know it was helpful when we were when I've been, diving into past policies. So thank you. Okay. Any other speakers on the list before we go ahead and vote? Okay, seeing none, let's prepare to vote. Okay, with the 4 yes vote with Dr. Alvarez not present, motion carries. Next item.
Number 2, adoption of revised board policy 5146, married, pregnant, parenting students.
Okay, can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Thank you. I'll second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Oh, Ms. Lebsack?
There we go. Okay. I know I mentioned at our last board meeting that I think that we should add one word to Board Policy 5146. Instead of saying pregnant students, saying pregnant females. The reason I gave is because I believe the state of California is intentionally trying to blur the distinctions between males and females. And they are doing this by passing laws such as putting menstrual products in boys' restrooms starting in 3rd grade. I was informed this week that we do have tampon machines now in our elementary boys' restrooms. Is this right, Superintendent?
Mr. Bustamante, will you address this? We talked about it earlier. I don't want to get any of these pieces wrong about our exactly where the menstrual products are placed.
Yep, so remember, it is a California state law in regards to grades 3 through 12, both public schools and charter schools, which is the, I'm trying to remember here, the actual act, I don't have it in front of me, but in regards to where they're at, they are in the girls' restrooms and any non-gender restroom, and then including one male restroom on each campus.
So it can't just be in like the nurse's office or in a gender-neutral bathroom. It has to be in a boys' 3rd grade restroom. And that, to my understanding, parents are telling me it's in even the TK through 5th grade because, or K through 5th, because they don't necessarily distinguish 3rd graders. So they could have kindergartners going in those restrooms, the boys' restrooms as well.
It's very specific, it's very clear, outdated in the law. So what I could do is I could provide the B2B that actually states, that's where we get our direction from. It tells us where exactly they need to go, what grade levels and what areas.
And it has to be bolted into the wall, correct?
It's the machines, correct.
Right. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because, yeah.
you're out of time. If you
Yeah,
wanna
I
get
know, a
back-
lot of you went out of time and you let them keep going, so.
Well, I actually was patiently waiting. If you want, you can get back on the speakers list, but I did want to kind of do a point of order. I was trying to be flexible, but I do believe we have gotten off the topic of this policy and more into ed code relating to other policies and practices.
You're the president. You can do what you want.
Yeah, no, actually, let's have the staff clarify. Does this policy have any mention to the topic that Ms. Lipsack was speaking to around hygiene products and tampons in the restrooms?
No, this policy does not.
Okay, thank you.
It's talking about females.
So with that, let's go ahead and prepare to vote. Okay, with a 4-yes vote, with Ms. Lebsack abstaining, motion carries. Next item.
Action item number 3, adoption of revised board policy 5148, child care and development.
May I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
I will second. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Lebsack?
Yeah, Board Policy 5148 is about child care and development, and it reads that a child shall not be expelled or unenrolled from the district's child care and development program, nor shall the child's parents or guardians be persuaded or encouraged to voluntarily unenroll from the program based on the child's behavior, unless, in accordance with the procedures specified in the accompanying administrative regulation. So my question was, it didn't give a number for that AR, and I would like to know what that exception is. What is that AR that addresses the exceptions to the rule? Does it include assuring a safe and conducive learning environment for the rest of the students in the class? Because these are two issues that cannot be ignored when accommodating a child with extreme behaviors. Otherwise, the board policy would actually be going against our values as a school district. So I just wanted to know what the exception of the rule was.
So I do see Ms. Butkin coming up. And to clarify, the Uniform Complaint Procedure AR, we did email that, so I.
Okay, I didn't see that.
No, I know. But there was no specific AR that's actually connected to 5148.
Oh.
There isn't a side-by-side one-for-one, AR 5148.
That's the one it is? Okay.
So, Ms. Lepsak, as Dr. Perez stated, there is no specific AR for SAUSD affiliated with Board Policy 5148, but there is one that is recommended by CSBA, Gamut, and that is one we're looking at now, and we're seeing how aligned it is to what we actually do in SAUSD. So that would be coming back to the board soon.
Yeah, because if we didn't have an AR, then that language should be removed.
So eventually, we actually will
We
have
will
an
have
AR.
it. Okay. So that'll be in the B2B? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and prepare to vote. Okay, with a 4-yes vote with Ms. Magdaleno not present, motion carries.
Action item number 4, adoption of revised board policy 6159.2, non-public, non-sectarian school and agency for special education.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second? I'll motion.
Second.
Give me a second. Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and prepare to vote. Okay, with a 4-yes vote with Ms. Magdaleno not present, motion carries. Next item, please, Ms. Quiroz.
Action item number 5, approval of 2026 to 2027 Local Control Accountability Plan.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second? I'll go ahead and motion. Can I get a second? Thank you, Dr. Alvarez. Okay, any discussion? Ms. Lebsack?
Yeah, this is about the LCAP, and it was pretty extensive. The chart showed that we spend over $6 million on library services in the district. And my question is, when it comes to parent engagement, because that's part of the LCAP, are parents part of the process of choosing our selections of books for our libraries? Are they being informed of the content in many of our newer library books so they can give informed input during our thought exchange? And according to the website, as I've mentioned before, takebacktheclassroom.com, SAUSD has many, many books in our school libraries that are considered sexually explicit, and many books teaching, various, gender theories that are controversial as fact in primary cartoon or comic strip form. I know I've tried myself as a school board member to go through the proper protocols to challenge some of these books, but after 8 months, I still have no idea the result of those challenges. As a teacher in the district for 10 years, I saw some of these firsthand coming in after the COVID lockdown, and was pretty shocked to see some of these. So I realize that most of our board members are not parents, but as a parent and grandparent myself, I would not want my kids accessing pornographic content or gender-confusing primary books through their school libraries, and I think I represent the majority of parents' views in Santa Ana Unified on this subject.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lebsack. I want to piggyback on your comments. I think that it's important, when I've heard you make those comments, I think it's very important to clarify. I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, but from what I've observed, I'll speak for myself. I think that that's a value, that is a value that I have as well. I don't think anyone wants our students or the children in our schools and in our community to be negatively impacted by any materials or content in our schools. But I have had, based on the concerns that you've raised here, we have asked publicly if there have been any complaints from district parents, students, and the answer publicly has been no, that there's been zero. And I've also had conversations with Dr. Perez one-to-one as well to follow up on the issues that you've raised publicly to ensure that I also am understanding if there is a real issue. And my understanding is that the cabinet and Dr. Perez have actually took it upon themselves to spend their time to read the materials that you've brought forward. And my understanding is that the books are age appropriate, the books that we have are age appropriate, and that there haven't been concerns from the staff. So I don't like to, go back and forth in like a personal comments to what other folks say, but for our community's sake, I do care. I want the community to have access to this information. I do not want our parents to be concerned or to feel that their voice is not being heard. But to my understanding, that's not the case. There have not been any parents who have filed a complaint that we're aware of. And if the staff could speak to that, I don't want to put you in the middle of this, but to just get the facts, because I also don't want, Ms. Lebsack, you speaking for our values, because that's not fair, and I don't want the community to not know that the values that we represent up here as well.
So I will share that the team has reviewed many, many titles, and where there has been a place where there was not age appropriateness, they have been aligned and reassigned to a place where they are age appropriate. And actually, I'm going to share with the entire board B2B that outlines all of the actions and steps that the team took in review of the books that we've been made aware of. And then I'll let the team speak to all of the kind of granular details, but that way we're not having, that way everyone knows, the books that were reviewed and where they landed and how the team came to that.
So, Dr. Alvarado is the representative from the teaching and learning team that actually reviews all of our complaints that we receive. So what I would like for her to do is to walk everyone through the process that's officially delineated and what we kind of go through when we're evaluating materials.
Good evening. Before I start, I just want to make some points of clarification. So when I was previously asked about, from the board about complaints that had been submitted to our team, at that time we had not received any complaints or challenges to any instructional materials. Since then, we've received 3. All of the challenges that we received were not from parents, so that is correct in terms of not having received any challenges on instructional materials from parents. We've responded to 2 of the 3, and so this was a new process for us, and so we wanted to make sure that we were, 1, following the board policy, and ensuring that we were communicating with the persons that had submitted the challenges. And so we did send receipt of acknowledging that we had received the challenges. Once we acknowledged it, we put together a team, a committee of folks that had diverse representation. We had administrators, we invited CSCA members, SAEA members, site admin members from teaching and learning. We reviewed all 11 titles that we had at that time. At the end of March, beginning of April is when we were able to convene the committee. We assembled a resume for each of the titles that were being challenged. We provided the resumes and the challenges to each team member so that they can review prior to meeting. Once we met as a team, we noted on the challenge whether the team member had read the material in its entirety or had just read the resume that was provided to each of the members. We also conducted votes for each of the books, and as Dr. Perez mentioned, after each book, we made some recommendations to the team, and the team either acknowledged and accepted those recommendations, and then once the titles all had received a decision, we created a letter that did require some back and forth, making sure that we were, that letter included as much information as possible, information as to why the titles were being challenged. We made sure that the letter had board policy that aligned to the process that we used, and then the decision on each of the titles.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Dr. Alvaro, I was just going to say, we will provide that.
Okay,
so that you guys, everyone can read and process what that process actually was.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And so currently we have, since that we got together to review those last titles, we have 1 more challenge. So the team has, as a team, we decided to meet quarterly. So as these challenges come up, we know the next anticipated date is to meet to review those challenges. So we'll meet once in the fall, in the winter, and 2 times in the spring.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so thank you for the clarification. I want to move us along because we are talking about the LCAP in this item. But I do appreciate that you were able to clarify that these 3 recent filings have not been from our district parents, but I also appreciate the proactiveness because again, I believe my colleagues up here really do care about the well-being of our students, and we wouldn't want any kind of literature that would be not age appropriate, right? And so I don't think that's really, I appreciate the team for addressing it. And Mr. Bustos, we'll let you have your turn and then we'll move forward.
Great, thank you. Yeah, again, I just want to acknowledge that we're talking about the LCAP here, and I want to really caution our board when we start having conversations about items that are not agendized, and because it could be interpreted as a violation of the Brown Act. I want to remind all of my colleagues of that. At the same time, it's important that and I respect the board president's decision to actually clarify and actually give factual information to our community about this. I would like to request that, we do receive, as a board, we do receive the list of names of the individuals that are actually making these challenges, along with the titles that they are challenging. But ultimately, I do want to respond to a comment that was made up here about, some of us up here not having children. I think it's largely disrespectful. I think that as board members and as community members, we shouldn't be making assumptions about people and why they're parents or why they're not parents. I think that it's something that is unprofessional and that we should avoid at all costs up here. Because I, as a board member, sit up here ensuring that the view that I have is responsive to every single child, not my own children and not my own beliefs. And so I respect individual parents' beliefs and I respect the rights that parents have, but nobody's rights should infringe on the rights of others across the board. And so I'm going to continue making that commitment. And I hope we heard tonight in this discussion that wasn't even related to the process for challenging books. I hope that since we've heard it publicly as a board, we don't have to do it again and continue to do it again and again. If community members request that, I think they can continue to do that to the superintendent, but we shouldn't be taking time during our board meeting to discuss matters that we've already had discussions about in the past in open session publicly. So again, I hope as we move forward, we focus on the items in front of us, we focus on what we're supposed to be having discussions about, and then cast our votes to address that.
Thank you. And I'm just going to share as the chairperson of the meetings, I appreciate when folks stay on topic because, any one item you can try to pull and make it related to what, talking points that you want to bring back up. But to really respect the public, respect our community and the work that we need to get done in the board's business this evening and each meeting. I do agree that, it's best to speak to the heart of the matter and not try to pull out these fringe moments to have a platform to speak on something repeatedly. So I know people have curbed those efforts a bit, and I appreciate that, and I hope we can continue that. And thank you to the public for letting us, hash that out and get some clarity. So with that, we'll go ahead and prepare to vote. Okay, with a 5 yes vote, motion carries. Thank you. We can go to the next item, Ms. Quiroz.
Action item number 6, approval of memorandum of understanding with Santa Ana Educators Association regarding community schools.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion to approve.
Okay. I'll go ahead and second. Any discussion? Ms. Lebsack?
Yeah, I want to explain why I have serious concerns about community schools. We're told that community schools are about partnerships, bringing schools, families, and community organizations together to help children. Are community schools truly partnering with parents, or are they gradually substituting parents? Community schools give an increasing number of outside organizations access to our children. And my concern is simple. Who is vetting these organizations? Who is monitoring them? And how much do parents actually know about what their children are being exposed to? I experienced this firsthand. A couple of board meetings ago, I voted no on our entire consent agenda because there was not enough time to pull individual items for discussion. One of the no-cost partnering agencies I was attempting to pull was the Orange County LGBT Center. Why? Because in 2021, when I was still teaching in Santa Ana Unified, I attended one of their professional development
webinars. Their presentation listed programs that mixed minors and young adults together. For example, Breaking Binaries was listed for ages 13 to 28. Q-Chats was listed for ages 13 to 19. Youth Empowered to Act, or YETA, was listed for ages 14 to 24 and was described as a club that trained youth in political activism. The presentation also encouraged youth to study with pride through Discord. When I researched the platform Discord, it said Discord is regarded by many child safety experts, law enforcement agencies, and researchers as a platform that can present significant risk for youth. Users of Discord can communicate privately, share texts, images, audio, and videos with strangers. You can see the 2021 PowerPoint presentation I'm referencing on my website, Brenda for Kids, under articles.
Ms.
with number
Lebsack.
4. My question is not whether someone agrees or disagrees with organizations.
Okay. I'm going to have to turn off your mic. Okay, go ahead. I'm trying to make a point of order, and as chair, it's very important that we have respect and decency for the process, and we can have that conversation. I wanted to flag that you're going into, you mentioned a former agenda item. I allowed you to speak to partnerships under this item, but you were going very far into that specific partnership. And so again, there is an item that we're getting off topic, and we cannot keep doing that. So
This is transparency. This is why I was elected. Transparency.
we have to stick to the agenda item. So let's not get into a back and forth. Okay, so with that, I apologize to the public. This is getting a little intense here. But we do need to stick to the agenda items, and we can't get into a completely different item from the last agenda. And so with that, I do see we have other speakers on the list, so I'll go ahead to Ms. Magdaleno.
Yeah, I just want to see if Superintendent Perez, can you explain to the public, sometimes some of our community members might not know the difference between one of our regular schools versus a community school, if we can have you explain that.
So community schools, actually, I know it seems like this is a new thing because everybody's talking about it in this different way. But community schools have existed since the 60s. What has changed is that the state of California has recognized, and many states have recognized the benefit of having a partnership between the school and the surrounding local community. And what has happened in the state of California is that funding came to support that energy. With that funding came some requirements, like most funding does. We have a district committee that is a larger advisory committee as a district, and then any school that is an individual community school also has an advisory. And so similar to school site council in that they provide oversight and information comes to that body so that they may ask questions and learn more about how they are choosing to direct their additional supports. I will say, even out at school sites yesterday and today, I had a parent share like, oh yeah, in our group we decided that we were going to put more supports towards particular things around literacy, and they were talking about and naming what those things were. So that is the mechanism that is how our community schools are operating, currently. They were unfunded before, and there were many schools across Santa Ana Unified that were engaging in community school-like activities where they were bringing partners in, whether it was to help with gardens or a variety of different, things that were needs that the local school community identified as a need.
Yeah, and I've attended a couple of community schools advisory council meetings, and it's been great to see the partnership that the school site and any other organization has built, and it's all for the benefit of the students. It's for the benefit of the school site. So I just want to thank our community schools coordinators for all the work that they do day in and day out, especially, at the beginning of the school year. There's a lot of work to get done, and the more support our students have, the more support our school sites have, the more we can make sure that they're performing at the highest standards as we can get them to perform, right? So just thank you to the team, and I'm just really grateful that the state also approved, I think, $1 billion in community school funding, so that's really exciting. And I know that we're going to get some of that funding, and we're just going to expand as we go on and so forth. So thank you so much to the team, and I look forward to seeing all of our schools eventually becoming community schools one day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Magdaleno. And with that, I'll go ahead and call the vote. With a 4 yes vote, with Ms. Lebsack voting no, motion carries. Next item.
Action item number 7, approval of memorandum of understanding with Santa Ana Educators Association regarding the release of a second SAEA officer.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second?
I'll motion.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a second? I'll go ahead and second. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Lebsack?
Just for the sake of openness to the community, because I'm kind of learning this myself. So my understanding then, just for clarification, is SAEA needs another person to help with conflict management, et cetera. And that person who will be doing the job is Ben Vasquez, who works as a history teacher at Valley High School. So we were told that, so he receives a total compensation of $199,000 annually, and that will be taken care of by Santa Ana Unified will be covering that expense, while SAEA covers the person who's taking his place, that salary. Is that correct?
Can I ask Ms. Flores to come to the podium so that she can share that information and make sure that we are all operating off of the same information?
Can you repeat it? I just want to make sure I have understand what you're asking.
I was just clarifying in that we are ourselves absorbing the $199,000 that he makes per year, and the SAEA is absorbing the amount that is the person that's taking his place as a teacher as he leaves the classroom.
Correct. So Mr. Vasquez is our employee, and so he is paid through his position, and then the union then pays for the replacement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other discussion? Mr. Bustos?
Yeah, can we just give some context around how long this has been a practice in our school district? And ensuring, community members know, typically how long this has been a practice. And
We've actually this has been a practice, and this is actually part of the SAEA bylaws, and so this is voted on by their members and approved by their members, and so that's how it gets to us. It's not our decision on whether or not who is part of or selected. So for the past 4 years, we have had a SAEA member as a second release. I think prior to that, it's not been consistent. I'd have to go back and look exactly how many years, but I know that wasn't always a practice. Right. And it is dependent on the union and how their members vote or how their board votes to move forward.
So the board or the superintendent or you and HR don't actually make that decision around who is that second person that's released. It's the union themselves that makes that.
It's the union that makes that decision, yes.
Okay, and this and just again to clarify, this isn't the first year that we've released a second individual to serve in that capacity.
No, for the past 5 years, or the ending of this last year, there has been somebody that's been a second release. Okay. Prior to that, I'd have to look.
And I would assume that even before that, there's always been at least one person that's been released, and typically that's the president, right?
Correct. That's part of their CBA.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, thank you. Seeing and hearing no other speakers on the list, let's proceed to vote. Okay, with a 5 yes vote, motion carries. Next item.
Action item number 8, approval of visual voices, language development through diversity in art course for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Ms. Lebsack?
Yeah, it says in explaining the program Visual Voices that students develop a visual campaign addressing a social issue, creating a series of artworks intended to raise awareness and advocate for change, followed by a reflective writing piece on a topic that's personal and has societal implications. So my question would be, are these students generated social issues? Are these issues given to them? Or are they in any way influenced by adults? I mean, for example, what if a Catholic student wanted to create a poster promoting pro-life, advocating for adoption versus abortion? What if a student wanted to create a mural depicting patriotism, respect for law enforcement, and appreciation of military veterans? Are they allowed to do these kind of things?
I'm going to have Dr. Enlow share a little bit about the specificity around these courses and why we're excited about them.
Hello, good evening. So the purpose of this course is to address English language learners and to add visual and performing arts options for our 6th and 7th and 8th grade. So the idea here is to offer them opportunities to do project-based learning where they are creating a product and they are doing that through art.
Okay, so they're not being given a prompt or, this is what we want you to. They're just kind of like
sharing their experiences and practicing communication.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Bustos?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope they wouldn't be told. I mean, I think that's the purpose of art, right? Like self-expression, that freedom of expression to be able to make decisions for yourself. So I'm glad that they're not. And thank you for clarifying that because that would be a very boring art class to have to sit through. So thank you.
Thank you. So I was really excited when I saw this on the agenda. It looks like a great course, so I want to thank the team who worked on it. And really what excited me about this course is it really is a great representation of our district's commitment to expanding robust and meaningful academic curriculum and opportunities for our English learners and newcomer students. And so I appreciate the intentional integration of the language development with the arts. And just, this is a theme, I know since I've been a board member, Dr. Perez and I have engaged in many conversations. It's a passion of mine. I've worked in Title III programs and with our English learners, and through my work in the district too here, something that's very, very important that we always keep in mind is that our English learners, while maybe they're focusing on learning the English language and getting their English skills down to reclassification levels, that doesn't mean the content area should be watered down or that they may not actually be advanced with the content area. And so I'm seeing our district, with the leadership of this board, put that into action by creating courses like this that are going to be meaningful and offer robust offerings for our students who are English learners so that we can help support them in their English language development, but also ensure they have equity and access to types of classes. And this one's getting pretty creative, so I'd like to see them have maybe even more, right, when we think of equity. And then also ties into the offerings that we're supporting our students to be able to take through dual enrollment to also get those robust academic offerings. So I'm very excited to see the plethora of offerings that are just growing. So thank you for really running with that. And I don't see anyone else on the speakers list, so we can go ahead and proceed to vote. Okay, with a 5 yes vote, motion carries. Next item.
Action item number 9, authorization to utilize California Multiple Award Schedule contract number 323071016, awarded to Borderland, Inc. for the purchase and warranty of networking security and internet filtering products, software as a service, and cloud computing services.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Okay, I'll go ahead and second. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Lebsack?
Yeah, on this, it talks about the purchase and warranty of networking, security, and internet filtering products for software as a service. So my question would be, do we have, what kind of internet filters do we have? Because that's a concern of parents. And I know that we just have a letter that came out from the Orange County Department of Ed talking about a new resource that's on the back of our ID cards starting from grades 7 through 12 that allows kids to go on TrevorSpace that can actually put them in harm's way. And I'd like to share that, Dr. Perez, that letter with you if you haven't already read it from the Orange County Department of Ed, and maybe you could share it with the board. So my question is, what kind of filtering is our software doing to protect our students from any kind of predatorial, interaction?
So right now, our content, it's a multi-tiered content filtering that we have with the district. At the district level, this what the item that you guys are looking at, it's for line-wise. That's for us to remain compliant with SIPA, which stands for Child Internet Protection Act. The second tier of filtering is at the site level. So Google admins at the site can actually filter out the sites that they don't want their kiddos to have. And then the third level is at the classroom level. Teachers have a classroom management tool that allows them to block certain sites at that moment in time. I do want to highlight TrevorSpace is blocked from the student network. So I anticipated that question.
All right.
We double-checked.
So even though it's recommended from the California Department of Ed, we've had to block it on our Chromebooks.
It's currently flagged as social.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good. Thank you.
Okay, any other folks on the speakers list? Okay. Seeing none, let's prepare to vote. The 5 yes vote, motion carries. Next item.
Action item number 10, adoption of resolution number 26273754, authorizing annual levy of special taxes within community facilities, District number 2004-1 of Santa Ana Unified School District Central Park Project for the 2026-2027 fiscal year.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and second. Any discussion? Okay, let's prepare to vote. With the 5 yes vote, motion carries. Next item.
Action item number 11, adoption of resolution number 26273755, proclamation declaring September 15 through October 15, 2026 as National Latino, Latina, and Latinx Heritage Month.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Can I get a second? I'll go, Dr. Alvarez.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Lebsack?
Yeah, I deeply value the rich heritage, history, and contributions of the Latino communities, which are an integral part of our district and nation. For me, this is also personal, as I've mentioned before, and to be honest, like I said, if it weren't for the Latino community, I probably wouldn't even be alive today. In 1950, in Michigan, my dad was a homeless man struggling with alcohol, riding trains from place to place after he came back as the sole survivor of the Korean War of his platoon. One night, a man named Manuel, an immigrant from Mexico, who couldn't speak much English, had a dream that he would see a man on a street corner that he was supposed to help. and Manuel saw my father on that street corner. He and his wife brought my dad into their home, helped him get a job, and took him to church. Because of Manuel's faith and compassion, my dad's life was changed. Long story short, my dad ended up going to seminary, met my mom, they got married, moved to Santa Ana in 1965, raised 2 daughters who both graduated from Santa Ana High School. My dad always said he owed a debt of gratitude to the Hispanic community. He sponsored many Hispanic men and women to attend Bible college, helped them start ministries, some of whom still serve in Santa Ana. Although he passed away 8 years ago at the age of 89 and was buried here in Santa Ana, I hope to honor his life by giving back to the community, realizing faith supersedes language barriers. I greatly honor and respect the Latino heritage, but I don't think this resolution does. It uses the term Latinx. In an updated 2023 Pew Research study, it shows that 53% of U.S. Latinos have never even heard of the term Latinx. And of those who had heard of it, 75% said it should not be used to describe the Hispanic or Latino population. The term Latinx is also inconsistent with the linguistic traditions that it claims to honor. In addition, the resolution frames Latino history almost exclusively through a counter-narrative which isn't balanced. Don't I get 3 minutes?
For regular items, it's 2, I believe, and then if you want, we can circle back to you, though.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else on the speakers list? Seeing none, Ms. Lebsack?
Okay, thanks. It focuses on oppression and overlooks the successes and contributions of Latino Americans. It turns something that should bring us together into something that's divisive. For those reasons, I will abstain from this politicized resolution. I think, though, as a district, we should be very proud that in 2022, the first woman became mayor of Santa Ana, who is a Latina and was a former school board member here in Santa Ana Unified, Madam Valeria Mesqua. I also honor the first Mexican-American born woman elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 2022, who's Mayra Flores.
Okay, let's proceed to vote. Okay, with a 4 yes vote with Ms. Lebsack abstaining, motion carries. Next item.
Action item number 12, adoption of resolution number 2627-3757, designating certain general funds as committed fund balance.
Okay, can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second? I'll go ahead and second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we can proceed to vote. Mr. Bustos? With a 5 yes vote, motion carries. Next item.
Action item number 13, adoption of resolution number 2627-3758, revision of authorized signatories.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, let's proceed to vote. Okay, with a 5 yes vote, motion carries. Next item.
Action item number 14, adoption of resolution number 2627-3759, authorizing compliance with the 5-year school facilities master plan requirement for career technical education facilities program funding.
Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion to approve.
Okay. I will second. Any discussion? Okay, let's proceed to vote. With a 5 yes vote, motion carries. Next item.
Action item number 15, adoption of resolution number 2627-3760 in support of Proposition 3, the California Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2026.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Lebsack?
The same reasons that I voted no on Prop 55 is the same reasons I'll vote no on Prop 3, so I'll just repeat them. Prop 55, passed in 2016, extended higher taxes on wealthier Californians to fund education and health care. Prop 55 was an extension of Prop 30, passed in 2012, which was to end in 2030, but Prop 3 will make the taxes permanent. Many of us here do not consider ourselves in the high-income bracket, so it might seem like these taxes don't affect us, but that's not true. Higher taxes have driven major corporations to leave California, which means fewer jobs and economic opportunities. In the past 5 to 6 years, large corporations, including Tesla, SpaceX, Twitter, X, Chevron, Oracle, Hewlett-Packard, Charles Schwab, and McKesson, have relocated to states like Texas with lower taxes. In-N-Out Burger moved its headquarters to Tennessee. Frito-Lay and Pepsi-Cola are closing their manufacturing site in Rancho Cucamonga after it's been in operation for 50 years, shifting production to Texas or Kansas. Hundreds of middle-class businesses have also left California. But won't more money automatically improve educational outcomes? Well, let's look at the data. Between 2020 to 2021, California schools received historic funds, $23 to $24 billion in ESSER emergency relief funds. If money alone solved educational problems, we would expect significant gains. Instead, California's national ranking dropped from 32nd in 2018 to 37th in 2025, a fall of 5 states. Some blame COVID for this decline, but consider Mississippi. They spend $5,000 less per student than California, yet their academic outcomes soared. In 2015, Mississippi ranked 50th in the nation academically. By 2025, they had risen to 16th, an improvement of 34 states. What does this prove? Money alone is not the solution. All right.
Thank you, Ms. Lebsack. Anybody else on the speakers list? Mr. Bustos?
Yeah, thank you. I believe that this resolution is especially important because of the moment public education finds itself in today. Across our state, school districts are facing serious financial challenges. Some are confronting deficits in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Others have been threatened with state intervention or have already lost significant local control because they can no longer meet their financial obligations. And we know what happens when districts reach that point. The decisions become harder, programs are threatened, positions are eliminated, and ultimately students and the people who serve them every day pay the price. And so that's why Proposition 3 matters. It makes sure that Prop 3 would make permanent the existing voter-approved income taxes on high-income earners that currently help fund public education. So I'm not up here, and I'm not here to protect billionaires. I'm not up here to protect corporations. I'm here to serve our students in Santa Ana. And so, according to the Legislative Analyst's Office, maintaining these existing rates is estimated to preserve approximately $5 billion to $15 billion annually in our state revenue. And so, I do want to say that 89% is going to be allocated to K through 12 public schools, and then 11% to our California community colleges. And so this proposition really is about protecting our resources that belong in our schools, in our classrooms. And so, this proposition is also about protecting the people who make public education possible every single day. Every dollar of stable, ongoing funding gives districts like ours really the greater opportunity to plan responsibly, to protect critical programs, to recruit and retain qualified employees, and avoid layoffs as much as possible when difficult budget years come. And so, that fiscal stability not only matters to our employees, but to the students and families who depend on them.
Thank you. I want to take a moment to express my strong support for this resolution and for Proposition 3. Proposition 30 in 2012 was the very first statewide proposition and electoral campaign that I personally organized around here in our community. And at the time, I was organizing alongside local nonprofits focused on public education and immigration reform. And that is some of the work that I hold dear and near to my heart that really led me to serve our community in this capacity today here on our board. Really started in those efforts, grounded in our community coming together and saying we wanted more for our students and for our immigrant families. Proposition 30 asked Californians to step up at a difficult financial moment for our schools by generating additional revenue for public education. That commitment was extended by voters through Proposition 55, and Proposition 3 now gives Californians the opportunity to make the existing policies permanent, providing greater stability for our schools and students. And at a time when districts like ours are facing significant financial challenges, it is encouraging to see Californians continuing to put students and public education first. To me, this is putting in action the type of all hands on deck partnership that we've been talking about that we need across the state as we see declining enrollment and the continued impact of financial pressures on our school districts. So with that, I'm proud that our district is standing alongside the California Teachers Association, the folks who are the heart of our school, right, our educators. I'm proud to stand alongside them, other labor, education, healthcare, and community organizations who are all standing in support of Proposition 3. And really, this is about a continued investment in California's students and schools. Ms. Magdaleno?
Yeah, I just want to thank Vice President Bustos for bringing this resolution forward. I don't think he mentioned it, maybe I'm mistaken, but if Prop 3 fails, public education faces $15 billion in loss in just 1 year. $15 billion with the B. So I can't even imagine what that would do to the schools, districts up and down the state, and just thinking about our own school district here, Santa Ana Unified. So just thank you, Vice President Bustos, for bringing this forward, and I fully support this resolution.
Thank you. And with that, Mr. Bustos?
Thank you. I just want to wrap up my comments here. And actually, I was going to end with that, so thank you for that. I brought this resolution forward because I'm just very proud to stand alongside SAEA, the California Teachers Association, and our labor partners in championing this effort. I'm actually wearing one of CTA's t-shirts now that says United to Defend Public Education, and that's what we're going to do with Proposition 3. And so, again, this resolution before this board recognizes CTA and other education, labor, healthcare, and community organizations that are supporting Prop 3 because of the critical funding that it's going to preserve for our California public schools and essential services. And, our educators understand what's at stake because they see every day what these resources mean inside of a classroom. And so ultimately, like I said, this resolution is about protecting the future of public education. It's about making sure that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and beyond, school boards across the state have the resources necessary to keep teachers and staff employed, to protect critical classroom funding, to maintain the programs that our students rely on, and then, of course, make this responsible long-term financial decisions about without constantly facing this threat of devastating cuts, right? And so we've worked incredibly hard to put our district on a stronger financial footing, and we have the responsibility to continue to work locally, and of course the responsibility to fight for the state funding that our students deserve. And so for that reason, again, I'm proud to bring this resolution forward and respectfully ask my colleagues to join me in supporting Prop 3 and standing up for stable, sustainable funding for California's public schools.
Thank you, Mr. Bustos. Ms. Lebsack?
So again, in 2021, 24 billion with a B, was given to our schools. And yet, California is 37th ranked in the nation. 37th. So obviously, money has not been the answer to the problem. Adding more funding to a system that is broken is like adding gas to a car with a cracked fuel tank. You have to first fix the underlying problem. California has to address its structural issues in education. We should look to Mississippi, one of the poorest states in the nation, to see how to do true reform. It's not just money. We have to promote dramatic results, and that's why I'm going to vote no on this resolution, because money isn't the answer.
Okay, let's go ahead and proceed to vote. Okay, with a 4-yes vote, with Ms. Lepsak voting no, motion carries. Next item.
Action item number 16, adoption of the Santa Ana Unified School District Governance Team Handbook.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion to approve.
And I will second. Any discussion? Dr. Alvarez?
Yes, I just had a couple of comments. The governance meeting is important. It's something that we should be doing every year. The one thing that I did want to mention is that the whole purpose of a governance meeting is to find areas where the whole board agrees on. What is it that we agree upon? And the things that we agree upon, that results in being included in a governance manual. So the whole purpose of the governance meeting is to find areas where we all agree. As a matter of fact, on page 3, it says the following agreements were discussed and agreed to through consensus of the board. So whenever there's this type of governance meeting, we find things that we agree on, and anything that goes into the governance manual has to be things that we agreed upon by consensus. And so I just wanted to point that out, and I'm going to waive the rest of my time, and I'll come back for comments next round.
Thank you, Dr. Alvarez. I will go ahead and share. Adoption of our governance team handbook reflects the work we have done together to standardize our practices and continue building a high-performing governance team. It strengthens how we operate together and positions Santa Ana Unified as a model for strong student-centered governance. And that has been the goal I've heard from my colleagues here and the entire governance team. Most importantly, strong governance keeps us aligned and focused on our academic priorities and on creating the conditions for every student to succeed and thrive. So I appreciate the work we've done together to get to this point. I know we had a governance session, a public board meeting that was focused on really grounding us in this collective work, and I look forward to continuing to strengthen our governance practices in service of our students. And with that, Ms. Lepsak.
Yeah, in reading through the handbook, I think what stood out to me as the most important was the board shall ensure that the district is responsive to the values, beliefs, and priorities of the community. I thought that was great. Another one is it will hold the organization accountable for progress in service to students. That was great. On page 3, under meeting preparation, in planning meetings, board members will share with the superintendent when they intend to ask the question at the meeting for public record. Now, I do agree with this, and I try to do it, but it's not always guaranteed because sometimes things are impromptu and spontaneous. So I guess I wanted to ask you about that, Dr. Perez. How do you feel that it's good to ask ahead of time so that you can be prepared? How are we doing with that?
I do think that is, really making what we do more transparent. And I've said this a couple of times from this seat, so that people know I am meeting with each and every single board member in preparation for this meeting. These 5 people sitting here have work that they do before they show up here. They don't just show up. And part of that work is us meeting, us having dialogue, me getting a feel for the things that are important to each of you individually, start understanding collectively where the board might be going, right? And so it is super helpful for us to know those questions in advance. I totally know that that's not going to be the way it works every single time, because to Dr. Alvarez's point, this meeting is about the board having dialogue. And so there are going to be things that naturally and authentically come up. So I'm not saying every single question. It's just helpful so that way I can add information that will hopefully allow for you guys to have a more productive conversation. That's really my intention.
Okay, then.
Okay, Ms. Magnolino.
Yeah, I just want to thank our board, right? Governance is the only way we get work done, we get business moving forward, and I think governance is very important. It's the only way we can run an education agency, an LEA, and I hope some of our board members reread it, because clearly what I saw earlier today was not what this governance handbook is talking about, right? We can all have different perspectives of here, but we need to make sure that we're respectful with one another and that we listen to our different perspectives. Because once we continue in that dialogue, that's when we get work done. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on the speakers list? Ms. Lebsack?
There was one here. Speakers addressing agenda items are encouraged to stay and hear the report and discussion on the agenda item. I think that becomes difficult sometimes if we have multiple back-to-back presentations, and then, like it's happened a few times, the agenda that they came to hear, we don't get to it till after 10 o'clock. So I don't know, maybe we can figure out what to do about that. Let's see here. There was also a big one at the end that I hope we do talk about, because it says a suggestion, and I was kind of confused about this. It sounds like we want people to be able to send in emails or a phone call or something, and that they don't have to come to do a public comment, but instead it could be read by the clerk. Am I understanding that right? It's on page 11. Communicating by letter or email, that those would be read out. And we haven't been doing that, so I wasn't sure if this is something that we're going to do or we're just going to talk about right now.
I'm reviewing the verbiage on the page, but if Dr. Perez, if you are ready to speak to it, feel free.
I can weigh in and give how I read this.
Mhm.
Ultimately, this is the board's handbook, so you guys provide direction, please. I read this as, should there be correspondence that is happening with the board to you? I know this happens. Emails come to you that, and I'm going to read this, correspondence will be identified by topic, author, and position. At the clerk's discretion, this formal written correspondence shall be read, summarized, or the writer's position noted. What this makes me think of is when there are multiple folks emailing each of you, and I know this happens because you guys share them with me, around a certain topic. Usually this is a pain point. That would be then shared out for transparency to the community. We have received emails, 10, whatever the number is, around this particular topic. Let's say parking, that's a common one. And so that can be shared out to say, we have acknowledged that we are in receipt of multiple emails, 10 or so emails from community members related to parking. And then that might be something that the board president is saying, directing staff to please look into and come up with some solutions, bring back to the board, that sort of thing. That's how when I read that, that's what I see as being a reasonable, viable way to handle this.
Thank you. So just for my clarification on this, because I do remember bringing forward the request, and just for the community to know, when we receive emails, so I was trying to identify a system. I think we may have talked about it here publicly, and then also individually, myself with Dr. Perez, but trying to figure out what is a system where, we can make sure that folks know that we have seen the concerns and that we've had that conversation with the superintendent. If multiple people are getting the same request, right? And so just to streamline things, but also make sure that folks know that what happened behind the scenes before we get to the meeting space. But then if I'm understanding correctly, then during the meeting, for those, because sometimes those are one board member might receive something. But if it's something that is substantial and it's multiple board members, then that will be, if I'm reading this correctly, reported out during the public meeting as a topic, and then we can build consensus. Okay. That sounds great. I know we have, let's see. Have you gone yet? Okay. Dr. Alvarez?
Yes, I had a couple of comments regarding this. As I mentioned, the whole purpose of the governance manual is to document areas that we agree upon by consensus. The key word is by consensus. There's, on page 5, there is the public comment time matrix. I don't think that this belongs in here because we already have a policy that says that the board president may adjust the times for the speaker's times. So that's already in the policy. This manual is supposed to be sort of a template that we hand down year to year. Every year we're supposed to review it. Every year we agree as a board whether we want to continue with it or not. And because the policy already gives the president the discretion to adjust times, I don't think that it should be included in here. And this is my train of thought. When board member Bustos was president, he figured out his own way on how to manage the meetings. You know, he counted the numbers. He knew how many speakers he had. He figured it out. He said, okay, this time for public speaking, and he managed it. President Brazier, what works for her is a time matrix. So that's what works for her. So next year when board member Magdalena was president, she might decide that she wants to do something different. So my whole thing is that this is supposed to be focused on the board. The policy already says that the board president has the discretion to adjust times and stuff like that. So because of that, I don't think that it's appropriate to include that in here. The other area, there was something else in here.
Dr. Alvarez, do you mind if I respond to that point, or do you want me to wait
Go ahead.
after you finish? Okay, that way we can keep track of and get consensus, because I believe that is something that I had included, and this was a few months back when I was making my suggestions to the draft. And so I hear what you're saying. I'm open. I just want to share my thought process was to bring transparency to the community and to my colleagues here, to all of us, so that there was consensus around how we go about it and trying to identify a system that would be efficient and effective at the same time. So for me, it would make sense to have consensus and be able to share with the public, right? Like this is the clear outline. So we also I talked with the superintendent about having that clearly posted as well, so that it's not a surprise to anyone coming to speak. I would recommend that we as a team kind of we have the opportunity to have the conversation now, and if folks feel that this works, but if not, we can do, each president can change it each time, but I was kind of trying to build consistency and find a system that we can build upon. Also keeping in mind that I've heard the board say we want to have the efficiency and end the meetings at 10:30. So I was trying to build in all of those factors that we could just continue to build upon. So I was trying to codify it. So that was my thought. I don't know what others think, or if people want to chime in, or if you have more thoughts on that, Dr. Alvarez.
Well, going back to, like I mentioned, we already have a policy that says that the president has the discretion of doing that. I don't think that it should be included in here. But let's take a look at the math in regards to this. So if we have 1 to 15 speakers, it's 3 minutes per speaker. 16 to 30, that's 2 minutes per speaker. 31 or more, 1 minute per speaker. So if we have 15 speakers, that's 45 minutes that we allocate them. If we have 30 speakers, we give them an hour in public comments. But if we have 31 speakers, we only give them 31 minutes. So I think a better way to look at it would be to say, okay, instead of following this, why don't we allocate 1 hour, an hour and a half to public comments, and then just figure it out that way. So what I'm getting at is that the board president has the discretion to do these things. I don't think that it needs to be included in here because this is specifically a board governance manual, and I don't think that it belongs in here.
And if I may, I'm not sure, and maybe we might want to table this and bring it back to the next meeting so we have some time to think about it. I hear what you're saying, maybe it's not best suited here. As far as the actual system, Dr. Press, would you mind sharing a little bit about, or having the team share about like the calculations? Because we did look, I asked the superintendent and the team to come up with a few options, so that I could review them and we could see what would make the most sense. So, I think we could go back and forth on what is the perfect system. I don't think there was a perfect system, and that's the hard part. But this seemed to be in keeping with the goals and keeping with our efficiency, but yet still being able to hear from the most amount of our community members. But again, it's not a perfect system. So would it be helpful to hear like the rationale? Do folks want to hash this out here and come up with something that we all agree on, or do we want to keep it as each board president will decide and we move from there?
Well, I mean, the board policy does say that the board president has authority, so that is what we have to follow. So we're going to have to do that no matter what. I do think that it's helpful for the board president to include this in this document, so it's a common understanding that the whole board has about what those time limits and constraints are going to be, and for the public also to know. But at the same time, like, the majority of the board can always override the decision of the president, right? If for whatever reason, if that's the case when we come to public comments. But I think it's kind of just a place setter to just help remind us. And I think when do we typically, or when do we have a timeline of or a point in time when the board is supposed to convene to discuss or be able to go through some kind of governance thing like this?
So ideally, December, we are doing the, governance meeting where folks vote on roles and all of that. The past couple of years, it has been asked of us that we not agendize anything else. And that would then allocate time. I know that it's the public opportunity, where folks invite family and all of that, and we do a little bit of a acknowledgement that way, but we don't typically, we have not in the past several years agendized anything. So if the board wanted to then use that as the organizational meeting to really organize how you all move forward, I think that would be perfectly appropriate.
And I think that this should be a dynamic document, right? That's constantly changing, constantly evolving with the makeup of the board. So I do believe that this is something that we should be reviewing every single year at the beginning of the calendar year when a new, leadership body is elected by members of this board. But I'm not super tied to any one way. Like, I hear both points, but I do think that it would be helpful for us to have some kind of path to really be able to rely on. But of course, respecting the board policy, which is that the president has the discretion. So from my understanding is that this is the president's discretion and decision, and we should respect that. But at the same time, this board can always, at any point in time, call for a vote to, go forth and give everybody 5 minutes, give everybody 30 seconds, whatever it is. So I don't know if that was helpful, but I'm just talking out loud and trying to figure out where we are here and what next steps could potentially be. So
I think it was helpful, but I am hearing a yes to codifying it here, and then it can always change. I do want to just flag that if we did that conversation in the December organizational meeting, I don't know that I would recommend it. I know that I see the logic, but it would be the first moment, right? That person is stepping into that role, and so we need to give them a chance to think through it. So maybe January or the beginning of the year. Also, it's can be a very celebratory meeting with a lot of folks and excitement. So I could see it being hard to really dive into this. Dr. Alvarez?
So I was just going to say, the whole purpose of the governance manual is things that we agree upon by consensus. And the policy does say that the president has discretion of changing the way that the meeting runs. So why don't we just separate them? Why don't we just approve the governance manual, and then we say, okay, every year the president is going to submit an addendum to it, indicating what her thoughts are, so that way we can codify, so that way we can have it in public and we can let the public know. But my whole thing is, and I keep going back to this, that this is supposed to be a document created by all of us, that all of us agreed upon. We had a good starting framework, then things started getting added on there. And to keep it simple, why don't we just leave it like it originally was, but allow the president to submit an addendum or attachment indicating on what her thoughts are in regards to the operation of the meetings.
I'm fine with that. Are folks, do we have consensus on that? Okay. Okay. We have Ms. Lebsack, and then we have Ms. Magdaleno, and then we'll circle back, Dr. Alvarez.
Okay, Dr. Alvarez, maybe there's a policy about this, but I was assuming that in the governance handbook that there would also be specific directions on how to get something on the agenda and how the agenda gets created, because I've tried, but I haven't been successful. And I know that there's people in the community that would also like to get things on the agenda for our board meetings. So couldn't that be part of the handbook as well? It's not in there right now.
I didn't, well, it is? What page? Page 3, I missed it. Okay. I guess I just have not been successful even following that.
Okay. So just for the community here, it's on page 3, the setting of the agenda, requesting an item to be placed on the agenda, and meeting preparation. Ms. Magdaleno?
Yeah, I agree with the consensus up here in regards to the placement of the speakers, depending on the president. The only thing I do ask that we add is maybe like a date where the governance board, the governance body does meet or does agendize this handbook, so it can get updated like a living document, like Vice President Bustos said. So maybe it can be the second meeting in January, so everybody can find their footing depending on who's up here. But if we can just like make that note in the handbook that every year in the second meeting in January, we'll have an opportunity as a board to update it, to revise anything, to, change any wording or language on it. I don't know if everybody's in agreement with that.
Yeah, and that might already be board policy.
Yeah.
Somewhere, right? So just maybe take
There is a special board meeting in January.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that, I believe, is what it was designed for.
Okay, then we can add it to that one. There we go.
Okay. Did you have anything?
I just want to make a quick comment. So this document is an agreement by the board on how we're going to be operating. I've had the opportunity to take a look at governance manuals from other districts. There are some districts that are really basic, and then there are some that are really detailed. This manual that we have here, it can include anything that we want to in regards to the operation of the board. But I think that to start off with, I think that this is a good start. There were some things that we were able, actually, you know what, for public knowledge, let me just read off some things. So we agreed on the setting of the agenda, requesting an item to be placed on the agenda. We talked about meeting preparation, how the board is going to prepare for meetings. There's a section on meeting management. There's a section on public comment at meetings, consent agenda, the role of the president, and board discussions and deliberation, and voting. And those are the different areas that we agreed upon as a board. Those are the things that we agreed upon in regards to moving forward. As I mentioned, my whole thing is that this document should only be things that we agreed upon. I think the best way to go about it would just to leave it as it is, the things that we originally agreed upon, and then allow the president to include an attachment as a statement of the operation of the meetings.
Thank you, Dr. Alvarez. Okay. Seeing no others, oh,
I do.
you did, okay.
At the very end, I know, and I don't know if we got anywhere with the correspondence conversation that we started with at the end. Because I see it as a suggestion, but it's actually not in any of the, like, sections. So if we're not gonna go move forward with this, then we need to strike that, because it's actually not, it should be in the, I think, public comment section or in the correspondence section of this board manual, but I think my take is that, and I think, again, this also, if this is what we're saying that we want to move forward with and accept formal written correspondence from the public, then I think we might need to adjust some policies around public comment and what we allow, because if we are going to have the clerk, or not the clerk, is it the clerk or secretary? The clerk read out correspondence that the board has received on agenda or non-agenda items, then that needs to be written in policy, and also needs to very clearly and specifically state that in our board agenda that's published ahead of the board meeting, right? So that's something for us to consider. Like, I'm not against this at all. I think that it could be a good practice, of course, for folks to be able to email us and share their thoughts on board agenda items, but I do want to say that if we do move forward with this, and that is going to require policy revision to be brought back to the board.
Thank you. Dr. Alvarez?
Going along with that train of thought, I was going to suggest, why don't we just bring this back again? The superintendent can take a look at to see the implications in regards to policy. There was also a request that I'm not sure if the question was answered, not this time, but last time. There was a request for a legal opinion in regards to voting. And I think that the superintendent sent us an email regarding that, but I don't know if that answered or resolved the issue in regards to this manual.
Okay.
I did bring that up around abstentions board members make when they cast a vote. And I do see that section in the board manual here, and I believe that what is written in the language here is language that we did receive from legal around, when abstentions usually occur. And again, it's when more board members don't feel like they have enough information to make decisions, if they need more time to review materials on the issue, if they have a personal or professional relationship with someone involved in the matter, if there's potential consequences on their vote. So I think it does outline here, but I do want to highlight that point that it does say the recommendation to ensure that abstaining doesn't violate fiduciary duties to the district or the office or the oath that the board member took. So I do want to highlight that, and I do believe that the language here does satisfy that request.
Thank you. And as I'm reading again through, because again, we've been looking at this, we've been working on this since like early spring, I believe, maybe. So as I'm looking at this last suggestion, I'm kind of rereading it a little differently than what I had in mind earlier. And so I don't know that it's the same thing that I was referring to. So I do have some questions on how that would actually work. So yeah, I agree in holding off on this suggestion piece and digging into that a bit more before including it in a part of this governance team handbook. So I would actually go.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table the item with the request that board members read through this and have questions prepared for the superintendent during our next agenda review. And superintendent, that you get very clear direction about where board members are, and then adjust what you hear from board members and whether or not you have majority or consensus, and adjust that document to reflect that. That's my motion.
Second.
Let's proceed to vote. With a 5 yes vote, motion carries. Thank you. Okay. So with that, we will now move to consent calendar. As we move into consent calendar, board members will have 1 minute each with no more than 2 rounds to discuss items pulled from the consent calendar so that we can manage the time that we have here meaningfully. As we get started, do any of my fellow board members wish to remove any items from consent calendar items 1 through 14? Ms. Lebsack?
Yeah, I'd like to pull L8 and L9.
Okay, seeing no others, let's go ahead and vote on the remainder. May I get a motion to approve the remainder of the consent calendar in a second?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Can I get a second? I'll second. Let's go ahead and prepare to vote. Okay, with a 4 yes vote and with Mr. Bustos not present, motion carries. Let's go ahead and go back to items L8 and L9. We can start with L8.
Consent item L8, approval, ratification of listing of agreements, contracts with Santa Ana Unified School District for the 2026 to 2027 school year.
Okay. Ms. Lebsack?
Yeah, number 5, which is $67,000 for the National Equity Project. The National Equity Project teaches critical race theory of implicit, explicit bias, structural racialization through the lens of systemic oppression, which parallels immutable skin color to controversial gender ideologies and expansive sexualities. When I have shared these theories with many of my Black constituents, they feel this is a hijacking of the civil rights movement, and they resent that skin color is being equated with gender choices and sexual preferences. In order to fairly represent the majority who voted me into office, I will vote no on the National Equity Project. It should be taught as a theory in higher education, not as a fact in K through 12 grades. Unfortunately, the National Educators Association passed a business item in 2021 saying critical race theory should be taught in grades K through 12. As a former member of the NEA, I think the NEA is not in touch with the parents or taxpayers across America. So I would like to pull number 5 to vote separately on it. And if not, I'll just vote no on the whole thing.
So I'm hearing a motion. Is there a second? Okay, hearing none, let's go ahead and proceed to vote. Or actually, I'm sorry. I think I still need a motion and a second on L8. Okay,
I'll go ahead and motion.
thank you. I'll second. Now we can prepare to vote. Ms. Lebsack?
Oh.
Okay. With a 3 yes vote, with Ms. Lebsack voting no, and with Mr. Bustos not present, motion carries. Okay, next item.
Consent item number L9, approval, ratification of listing of no-cost community partnership agreements with Santa Ana Unified School District for the 2026 to 2027 school year.
Okay, can I get a motion and a second?
I'll go ahead and motion.
Okay, I'll second. Any discussion? Okay. Okay. Hearing none. I don't see anyone on the speakers list. Ms. Lebsack, are you on the speakers list? Okay.
That's for L9, correct, for Climate Action Campaign? Yeah. So for L9, yeah, I was going to pull out number 4 for Climate Action Campaign. Actually, talked about this at the last board meeting. Talked about, we have environmental justice going on, and parents are being paid $50 to $100 to attend environmental activism training, and to me, this does look like political bribery, and I don't think SAUSD should be associated with it. Secondly, when it comes to climate action,
John Clauser, who received a 2022 Nobel Prize in Physics, joined with 1,600 other professionals signing the World Climate Declaration, which said there is no climate emergency and that climate change science should not be taught as fact. Additionally, 500 scientists signed the European Climate Declaration, sent it to the United Nations, saying that no statistical evidence that global warming is intensifying natural disasters. So I think we need to, I would vote no on climate action campaigns.
Okay. Seeing no other speakers on the list, let's prepare to vote. Okay, with a 3-yes vote with Ms. Lebsack voting no and Mr. Bustos not present, motion carries. And with that, okay, so with that, we can move to our board reports. So board members will have, we want to do 3 minutes. I think we agreed to 3 minutes. So we'll go ahead and begin with Ms. Magdaleno.
We haven't had board reports in how many meetings? I have nothing prepared for you guys. But all I'll say is, you know, it's the first week back at school. I just want to thank our amazing staff, our amazing students. I was just so happy to see everyone back at their school sites. I was able to visit a couple schools yesterday, and then today I went with Superintendent Perez. And it was just great to see everybody in action. I was able to also see our literacy coaches in action, which was amazing to see. I know some schools are still waiting because we're still filling all the positions up. But it's good to hear everybody is having a great start to the school year. So just thank you for everyone to put in the work. I know it was a lot of work in the summer as well. And with that, I have nothing else. I can't think of anything else. I mean, what did I do during the summer? I worked. We were here during the board meetings. Have a good night, guys, and we're out early. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lebsack?
Yeah, I just really think that Santa Ana Unified, that we have a lot going for us. I know the first few days I heard good reports, and I know we had great reports over the summer with a lot of great programs going on, a lot of kids involved, which was encouraging. I'm really excited about our CTE programs that we have to offer kids, and a lot of our modernized facilities. Really impressed with Washington. I love the playground. Of course, being an adapted PE teacher, it really excites me. And then seeing all the educational aspects of our blacktops is encouraging. And, you know, I just think this is an election year, and I mean, you know, it's the elephant under the rug, I guess. But I am endorsing Alejandro Rodriguez and Sylvia Iglesias on this board. I know that Hector Bustos said being a parent isn't a big deal, but I think it is a big deal. And I think that parents have hearts of parents, and they do understand the values, and they know what they go through, and that's just what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for some changes to really see this district go far.
Okay. Ms. Lebsack, I just want to make a point of order. I did not hear Mr. Bustos say that having, whatever it was that you just said, that is not what I heard him say verbatim, and so I just kind of, as a team, caution us from repeating each other if we're not going to be exact. I think that's not fair to the community. Okay, with that, we have Dr. Alvarez.
I wanted to start off with a request. We had some speakers coming here. They've been here a couple of times in regards to the Early Start program. I was just wondering if somebody could reach out to them, have a conversation with them. Other than that, I just wanted to mention that it's been a good start to this year. I was at Santa Ana High School yesterday. I was at Century today. It was a really good day, and I'm trying to plan the rest of the week and the rest of the month, but I'm facing challenges because the websites aren't updated, and I can't find there's nothing in the calendars. Not only that, but things, the websites aren't updated because on some of them it shows the wrong principal, it shows the wrong assistant principals and all that stuff. So I wanted to ask you, it's not just us looking at the calendars. I had a conversation with Dr. Pillars. That the thing is, we have a lot of kids that live with extended families. So somebody might say, oh yeah, well the kids' parents get the parent square, they get the emails regarding the events. But the example that I used was my neighbor. The kid goes to Century High School, but grandma's the one that takes her. Grandma's the one that picks her up. Grandma's the one that goes to all the events and all that stuff, you know. And I think that part of family and community engagement, you know, making information easily accessible. And actually that falls also under Board Policy 6020 regarding parent involvement. And we had a conversation about this before. So I just wanted to ask if we can update the calendars. I want to give a shout out to our staff. In regards to the air conditioning, you know, I did get one complaint about air conditioning. That was about 9 o'clock. I got one, and then I heard from the person that at 9:20 the air conditioning was fixed. Other than that, it seems like we're having a great start to a great year, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the year. We're going to have a great year, and that's it for my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Alvarez. Mr. Bustos?
Thank you. Happy first week of school. I want to welcome all of our educators, students, and families back to our campuses. I had the privilege of being at Washington Elementary yesterday for the first day of school, and it was so beautiful just to be in community with parents, our educators, our students, community partners that were also there, cheering on our students as they walked down the red carpet. I think it was a beautiful way to start the day. And so I want to thank, the team at Washington for welcoming me and allowing me to join them for the first day of school. I also had the opportunity to attend Edison Monroe's meet and greet last week. So this is an event that they do every year ahead of the first day of school to, welcome community partners so that parents know which community partners are actually, working with the school site, anyone and everyone from the UCI partnership that we have to the therapy dogs that come on campus and support students. And so it was, again, very beautiful to be able to be with community then. I want to thank the parents who came to give public comment tonight related to Early Start. I am going to take them up on their invitation to join them at the school site for one of their, one of the sessions when they're there. And so I'll be scheduling that through your office, Superintendent Perez, soon. And I will end with this, even though I didn't want to end with this. I wanted to end on a more positive note. But, I did not say that being a parent is not a big deal. So please don't put words in my mouth that I didn't say. I'm making that request of you because it's unfair and it's wrong and it's unprofessional. So please don't do that, because I don't do that to you. If you're ready to pay the adoption fees for me to become a father, then come on, give me the money, show me the money to do that. But I don't think you're willing to do that, because I would love to be a parent. But the reality is, for community members like me, one of the only options that I have is adoption. So please don't place that on me, because again, I care about the children in this community more than anything. It's part of the reason that it's the whole reason that I do this work. And so to say that I made a statement that being a parent is not a big deal is just far from the truth. And I hope our community heard who Board Member Lepsak is endorsing in this November's elections. And I hope the community knows that the values that Board Member Lepsak has are the same values that those two candidates have as well. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bustos. I also want to thank our staff. I was able to join 5 of our sites on the first day of school. I want to thank our team here too for helping me put that schedule together. And it was very, very inspiring to be able to be on campus on the first day of school, as many sites as I could get to and just see. First thing I noticed, my first stop was Jefferson Elementary. Beautiful setups throughout the day. I saw on social media all the sites had that. Every site I stopped at, had beautiful welcoming displays for our students and families. I saw our students light up when they saw their teachers, their counselors, the FACE staff, the Engage 360 staff, the principal giving hugs, and so that was very, very just beautiful to see, and to see the parents watch their little ones run off but know they're in good hands. And so thank you to everyone on our campuses and behind the scenes who make that possible and pour so much care into our students. It was very evident. I also got to stop by MIT with our superintendent, so thank you, Dr. Perez, for meeting me there. We were able to do some visits into the classrooms and just welcome our educators back and check in on how things were going. We saw a lot of excited students who had transferred from other elementary schools over to MIT for their intermediate grade levels, and so it was really neat to see them sharing that they were having a great first day despite being a little bit nervous. And I also got to see beautiful Spanish class in action. It was very inspiring as well. Stopped by Greenville and got to check in on a classroom. They were going over their classroom agreements, and the assistant principal was really excited to see the teacher just jumping into that work right away, and that was really great. And then I stopped at Segerstrom, also got to step into a Spanish classroom, and really appreciated the teaching style of the teacher that I got to meet, and the kids, he had their attention, and so that was really exciting to see. And then last but not least, I got to stop by Thorpe and visit many of the classrooms as well at Thorpe. And, you know, two of the sites we have new principals, so it was exciting to see their leadership and the excitement. And I want to give a shout out to our Engage 360 team and our expanded learning team for the TK Summer Bridge. I got to hear about the impact at our sites of what that really does in ensuring there's a smooth drop-off, that our little ones have a great first experience in school. So thank you so much. Lastly, just so that we can give some direction to the superintendent, I wanted to make sure to add in my comments, since we haven't had comments, but I'll be quick. I have heard interest, and I've seen it come up from our board as far as engaging with the community. And for me, that's something that's my background, is engaging with community and through my work. And so I asked the superintendent, I'd like to provide guidance with the consent of the board for her to really share with us some options for all the board members to be able to engage with our schools and our community members, and kind of work on creating a template that could work and be consistent. That would include engaging in events, and I think there's been different asks from different board members, and then also providing some standardized materials that folks can use to be able to engage in those activities, but something, again, that's standard and that people can opt into as needed, and providing those options, whether it's just different materials, right, like district resources to promote and share with families as we're promoting literacy. I know I've been tabling at some of our events, right, around literacy, things like that. And then again, with the school events, so that we're streamlining things and not adding extra work to school sites as well. But if we have consensus with that, I want to make sure before we give direction to the superintendent. And then folks can choose what they would like to select from those options she puts forward. Okay. Dr. Alvarez?
I was just going to say that I am in agreement with it, but I don't know if you guys missed it, but the superintendent did send out an email, I think last week, asking us to contact the communications department so that they can set up these things, so they can set up events and stuff like that for us. So I don't necessarily think we need consensus, because she already agreed that that's what she was going to do. Well, so that we can get out of here, yes, I'll give consensus.
Thank you. And I think maybe, so if folks are okay with it, and And I think there was maybe, more to that as well, but if we're good with that and folks want to get going and give some time back to our hardworking staff, that sounds good to me. Dr. Perez, do you have any questions for us, or we're good? Okay. So with that, the next regular board meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Tuesday, August 25th, 2026. Having no further business to come before the board, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.